Chapter 115. After throwing the corpses on the ground, he dragged the corpses of the 3 stone apes up and put them together. The burning prairie sword released fire elements and burned these corpses. If they were allowed to rot on their own, the corpse chi would be enough to make Lin Muyu fall seriously ill. At that time he would probably die without anyone doing anything. He glanced at the stone steps leading to the 3rd floor. It was empty, but his spiritual perception felt different. The stone steps were filled with an awe-inspiring aura. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, picked up a stone from the ground and threw it with force. Bang! The stone instantly turned into powder and a red ripple spread out. There was indeed a blood-red barrier on the stone steps. No wonder his spiritual perception couldn't detect what was on the 3rd floor. At this moment, an awe-inspiring voice came from the 3rd floor. "Do you want to see me? Then come hee." This voice was like a malicious spirit from purgatory, and it made people's hair stand on end. Although Lin Muyu was arrogant, he knew his limits. He didn't think of going to the 3rd floor to die, so he turned around and went back to the 1st floor without looking back. If his spiritual perception couldn't pass through the barrier, he wouldn't be able to determine the strength of his opponent. It was better not to try. Pata. The small door on the metal door opened, and a heavy bag of food was placed inside. They were all pancakes, the dry rations of the Empire's army. With Lin Muyu's appetite, he could eat about 4 pancakes in one meal, and there were close to 100 pancakes in the bag. There were also 7 or 8 bulging water bags beside it. A soldier's voice came from outside. "Lin Muyu, I don't know if you're dead or not. This is your rations for 7 days. If you're not dead, throw something out so that I can report." Lin Muyu threw an empty water bag out from the small door. Immediately the lieutenant chuckled. "You're actually not dead? You're really lucky." Lin Muyu frowned and looked through the small door. This person was a lieutenant of the military police battalion. No wonder he was so arrogant. Xiang Yu wished that he could immediately die in Tong Tian Tower. She couldn't see too far through the small door, but she could see a flag fluttering about a mile away. It was the battle flag of the Imperial Army. The huge golden shield emblem was very eye-catching, and Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel warmth in her heart. After storing the food in a ventilated and dry place, he continued to sit cross-legged and cultivate. At night, the crimson vortex in the skies above Sky Split Tower began to spin. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. The sound of thunder shook Sky Split Tower, as if even this great tower was afraid of the might of the heavens. Lin Muyu sat in the tower, cultivating her spirit pulse technique. She frowned. Looking at the terrible weather, it seemed that tonight would not be a safe night. He lit the brazier and continued to cultivate silently. The lightning and thunder outside did not seem to affect him at all. After an unknown period of time, Lin Muyu's heart suddenly moved. Her spirit pulse technique detected that a strong force had entered the 2nd floor of Sky Split Tower. It must be something that came down from the 3rd floor. Clang. With a wave of her hand, she pulled out the burning prairie sword. The incoming person was extremely fast. A gray shadow scuttled down the stone steps, accompanied by a hair-raising cry. It was a creature that looked like a deep-sea crustacean. Its back was covered with a thick shell, and its face was ferocious and terrifying. Its 4 legs stood on the ground and its body was covered with spikes. Hee. When it screamed, those spikes all stood up, and it suddenly looked like a frightening hedgehog. What the hell is this? Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and raised her hand to summon the wall of the gourd. The mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall were quickly activated. It was necessary to maintain the best defense against this kind of thing. "Brother." Lulu's voice came from the Ehai. "This is a thorn demon, a type of scavenging creature. Be careful of its poisonous spikes. These stab wounds are all poisonous." Lin Muyu nodded her head. Her gaze swept across the top of the thorn demon's head. There were 5 golden lines and 1 silver line. This was a 5,100-year-old spiritual beast. Lin Muyu had killed many spiritual beasts before, but it was the first time she had seen such an ugly one. The thorn demon was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, it slowly walked to a position that was less than 20 meters away from Lin Muyu. Suddenly, it screamed loudly and spun its body, shooting more than 10 poisonous spikes through the air. Pa pa pa. The poisonous spikes were perfectly blocked by the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu raised her hand and threw out the demon noise blade. With a sharp whistle, the demon noise blade went straight for the thorn demon's neck. However, the thorn demon's speed became faster. It twisted its body and used the shell on its back to block the demon noise blade. With a dang sound, the demon noise blade actually did not pierce through and was instead rebounded. Jejia. the thorn demon roared and rushed over. It opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of poisonous liquid. Lin Muyu hurriedly increased the strength of the gourd's battle energy. With a pa-pa-pa sound, the poisonous liquid was completely blocked. At the same time, she raised her right hand and sent out a thunderous wild wave. Pung! The prairie fire sword flew up and the thorn demon's abdomen shell was pierced through. Green poisonous liquid was flowing out. Roar! The thorn demon seemed to want to risk its life. It quickly crawled over. Its two short front legs suddenly extended from its body. It was actually two front legs that were like choppers. It slashed at the wall of the gourd. A wave of pain came over. A 5,100-year-old spiritual beast was indeed not ordinary. The thorn demon's knife arm directly tore through the black tortoise shell and slashed at the dragon scale wall. It directly injured the martial spirit and caused Lin Muyu's body to suffer a certain amount of pain. Lin Muyu couldn't care so much. He opened his palm and grabbed one of the knife arm. Immediately, a numbing feeling came from his palm. He quickly moved the long sword and filled his palm with the power of the true dragon essence fire. With a poochie sound, the long sword pierced through the thorn demon's body and created a 10-centimeter radius bloody hole. The green poisonous liquid flowed everywhere. However, the thorn demon's vitality was somewhat shocking. It let out a jejia sound and suddenly opened up all the barbs on its body. Pu-pu-pu-pu sound it randomly shot out. This thing wanted to perish together. Lin Muyu hurriedly retracted his hand. His entire body was under the protection of the gourd and wasn't injured at all. However, when he turned around, he discovered that 7 or 8 bulging water bags were all pierced by the thorn demon's poisonous thorns. The water was flowing all over the ground. This was his 7 days of drinking water. In an instant, Lin Muyu's heart felt as though there were a million grass mud horses galloping in his heart. He turned around and glared at the thorn demon. His face was filled with killing intent as he growled, "Motherf asterisk Ker, compensate me for my Nongfu spring water." He raised his fist, blood spiraled and his demonic energy surged. 2 luminaries demonic dance. Bang! With a heavy strike, the thorn demon's huge body was sent flying like a ball. It hit the stone wall and bounced back, but it still didn't die. It stood up with a jejia sound and shot another wave of poisonous thorns at Lin Muyu. However, all of them were blocked by the wall of the gourd. This thorn demon was unlucky to encounter Lin Muyu's perfect defense. If it was Feng Jixing's purple electric flame wolf or Zhang Wei's fire bear, they might have been poisoned. Wang! The flames spiraled around the long sword, and the second spiraling break once again tore a huge bloody hole on the thorny devil's body. Lin Muyu leapt up and grabbed the spinning longsword. The blade was filled with true dragon primary fire, and she suddenly slashed down. Bang! The flames surged and directly burned the thorn devil into a pile of ashes. Hoo! Lin Muyu was panting heavily. She found a spirit stone in the ashes. It was a 5,100-year-old thorny demon spirit stone. It was a poison-type spirit stone that contained lethal poison. If it was used to forge weapons, it would be a naturally poisonous weapon. Although it was not very sinister, it must be very powerful. However, when she turned around and saw the water stains on the ground, Lin Muyu was incomparably depressed. Drinking water would be a problem. After all, with her flesh and blood body, she would not be able to last for a month without drinking water. She might not even be able to last for 7 days. As a cultivator, her strength was very strong, but her dependence on food and water was higher than an ordinary person. He continued to sit cross-legged and cultivate. At the same time, he recovered his battle chi and stamina. One by one, the spirit beasts came down to die. It made him feel uneasy. These spirit beasts seemed to be raised by someone. However, who had the ability to raise these spirit beasts? Moreover, the people at the upper levels did not have food and water. What did they rely on to survive? Was it just to hunt the birds in the sky and drink their blood? When he thought of this, his body could not help but tremble. He looked up at the upper levels. There would not be anyone else coming tonight, right? However, he was wrong. When it was close to dawn, another force came from the 3rd level to the 1st level. Dang! Lin Muyu unsheathed the burning prairie sword and looked straight at the staircase. She saw a patch of fire illuminating the stone steps. In the next moment, a man in tattered armor slowly walked down the stairs. His right hand was extended horizontally, and a ball of purple flames danced continuously in his palm. He raised his head, revealing a face full of beard. On his forehead, there was a big cross, which seemed to be the insignia of a mercenary. This person was a mercenary in the past. Brat, not bad. Even Thorn Demon was killed by you. His eyes were filled with disdain. Lin Muyu frowned. "Who are you?" "Me?" He shook his head and seemed to be deep in thought. After thinking for a while, he smiled. "I almost forgot who I am. I only remember that people gave me a nickname, Chi-Gue." That's right, why do they call me Chi-Gue? Probably because I have killed too many people." Saying that, he raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu. He grinned. "You will be the next. Oh, you are also a gold star sparring master of the temple. But to die under my fist, it is not in vain. Are you done? If you are, then make your move." Lin Muyu said indifferently. Chi-Gue's expression turned cold, flames crawled up his arms and a malevolent fiery red ghost martial spirit appeared behind him. It seemed that his name came from this fire attribute martial spirit? 1. The fist energy was biting cold. Once he made his move, it could be seen, fiery fist. This person was using Xiang Wentian's famous fist technique, which was different from Zhang Wei's fiery soul fist. His fiery fist was purer and its power was also much stronger. His Do Qi was transformed into flames, and this flame force was not something that Zhang Wei's fist could produce. Chapter 116. Peng. The heavy punch landed on the mystic tortoise shell with an unstoppable force. In an instant, it shattered the mystic tortoise shell. Following that, the punch landed on the wall of the gourd, causing Lin Muyu to crash into the stone wall. With just one fist, Chi-Gue's strength was already enough to suppress Lin Muyu. Xiao. The burning prairie sword struck back like lightning, piercing Chi-Gue's eyes. Chi-Gue let out a low roar and suddenly closed his arms, using his flesh and blood body to clamp the burning prairie sword. Lin Muyu saw that the situation was bad and reacted quickly. Her left hand hooked upwards with a blood-colored energy, one glorious life chaos. Peng. Chi-Gue's body trembled as his body protecting Do Qi scattered, unable to withstand the impact of the seven glorious profound energy. However, his arms still tightly clamped the burning prairie sword. Lin Muyu simply released the hand holding the sword and opened her palm, using fire to control the sword. The burning prairie sword trembled as it quickly spun with the sword as the axis. Streams of true dragon essence flames formed a cyclone around it. Instantly, Chi-Gue's palm skin was quickly shredded and he could no longer hold the sword. Ha! This once famous mercenary king suddenly let go of the burning prairie sword and looked at Lin Muyu in shock. Without saying anything, he raised his fist and heavily smashed onto the burning prairie sword's blade. Dang! That was truly an iron fist as it forcefully deflected the spiraling sword. The iron fist took the opportunity to land on Lin Muyu's chest armor. With a muffled "pu" sound, Lin Muyu spat out a mouthful of blood as she retreated a few steps. The Do Qi in her body quickly dissipated and she was no longer able to muster any strength to counterattack. Chi-Gue's entire body was surrounded by raging flames as he looked at her arrogantly and said, "This daddy has been famous for 50 years and has long stepped into the third level of Heaven Realm. What kind of opponent have I not seen? I have lived in Tongtian Tower for more than 10 years and you are the first person who can injure me. Should I kill you today or spare you?" Lin Muyu was an unyielding young man. She took out a dozen diamond coins from her bosom and said, "I'll give you the money and you'll spare my life. After 20 days I will leave Sky Split Tower and we will mind our own business. Otherwise, if I were to risk my life, you might not be able to escape unscathed. We have no enmity between us, so why must we fight to the death?" Chi-Gue was at least a level 80 and above Heaven Realm 3rd Heavenly Stage expert, with a cultivation close to the sacred domain. If he were to really fight, he would probably be even more terrifying than Xiangyu. Against such an opponent, he had no chance of winning at all. Furthermore, he hadn't even grasped the third star of the seven planets' profound energy, otherwise he might be able to put up a fight. Ha! Chi-Gue threw his head back and laughed. His expression was filled with disdain and arrogance. He glanced at Lin Muyu and said, "Brat, you're an interesting person. However, Bloodlord said that anyone who enters Tongtian Tower can either obey him or die. Choose one." "How do I obey?" "Follow me to the 3rd floor of Tongtian Tower." "3rd floor?" Lin Muyu furrowed his brows and said, "What if I don't go?" "Don't worry, you'll go." Chi-Gue's lips curled into a strange smile. He suddenly opened his palm and with a roar, a monstrous flame condensed around his body. With a voila, the flame spread out with him as the center, burning everything around him. Lin Muyu hurriedly stomped on the ground. The gourd martial spirit appeared around him and perfectly protected him, not allowing him to receive any damage. However, in the next moment Lin Muyu even had the heart to die. because the bag of dry rations placed in the corner had instantly turned into ashes. The flatbread had been completely burned into a pile of ashes, so how was he going to eat it? Chigue laughed and jumped up the stone steps. There's food in the third floor. If you're not afraid of death, then come. His figure flashed and disappeared into the darkness. The kerosene was also burned in an instant and the first floor entered complete darkness. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth as she stood there. First, the water bag was destroyed by the thorn demon, and now even the dry rations were burned by Chigue. It seemed that Bloodlord really wanted her to go to the third floor? To go or not to go, this was the question. If she went, her life and death would be uncertain. If she didn't go, she would starve to death here. The closest guard of Tongtian Tower was a mile away. No matter how she called for them, they wouldn't be able to hear her. Moreover, the emperor had already ordered that no matter what happened in Tongtian Tower, the people outside were not allowed to provide any help. Otherwise they wouldn't be exiled from Tongtian Tower. When he sat down, his stomach was already growling. Lin Muyu frowned. If she continued to starve, it would only get worse. As her stamina drained, her do-chi would also become weaker. Rather than that, it would be better to go to the third floor to find that blood lord and see what he wanted to do. Moreover, the earlier she went, the more powerful her stamina and do-chi would be. Thus she made up her mind. Sitting cross-legged, she used close to an hour to circulate the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll 72 times. Her stamina and do-chi had also recovered to their peak. She should be able to use the first and second element of the 7 planets' profound energy a few more times. Let's go. Holding the burning prairie sword in her hand, she lightly spat out energy. Immediately, the sword lit up the surroundings. It was already close to dawn. Sha. Stepping on the stone steps, she walked up to the second floor. This place was still deathly silent. In the distance were the skeletons of the dead. She turned around the corridor and the stone steps to the third floor appeared in front of her. However, to enter the third floor, she had to pass through a blood-red barrier. Spreading out her spirit pulse technique, she could clearly feel that the barrier was only 2 meters away. Lin Muyu shook the tip of the sword and activated the power of the fire sword. Instantly, the true dragon essence fire lingered around the long sword and the dragon flame spiral break was quickly blasted over. Bang! The powerful true dragon's penetrating power directly pierced a big hole in the barrier. Without thinking, she followed the burning prairie sword into the third floor. Her body was surrounded by the gourd walls and she had already entered her peak battle state. Suddenly her eyes lit up. The third floor was actually lit up with glass lamps. Furthermore, Chigue was smiling at her with his arms crossed. "Brat, you're finally here." Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. "Chigue, what the hell are you trying to do? Where is that bloodlord?" "I'm here." An indifferent voice sounded behind her. The next moment, Lin Muyu couldn't move at all. A tyrannical domain power had already formed a pressure on her. Another sacred domain expert. Pow! Waves of battle energy exploded around her like a white pear blossoming. Lin Muyu tried her best to control her body to resist the pressure. She even activated the true dragon essence fire, but it still didn't work. She gritted her teeth and roared angrily, activating the chaos of the common life. For a moment, the overbearing and vigorous 7 luminaries' profound energy rushed through her meridians and dissolved at least half of the pressure. He slowly turned around and looked at the Blood Lord with a cold gaze. However, he realized that the Blood Lord was wearing a red robe and was actually sitting on a black bear. He didn't even have legs. "Why are you surprised?" The Blood Lord lifted his cloak and revealed an old face. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, as if he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. He smiled. "What kind of monster do you think I am?" Lin Muyu looked at the black bear that the Blood Lord was sitting on. The bear's body was extremely huge and as heavy as a tank. Moreover, there were a total of 12 golden lines and 18 lines on its forehead. This was a spiritual beast black bear that was 12,800 years old. The Blood Lord was indeed not an ordinary person. Otherwise, how could he possibly control a spiritual beast that was more than 10,000 years old? Xiao He was caught in the dragon-seeking forest 70 years ago. The Blood Lord stroked the black bear's head with his old palm and smiled. "He's very obedient. When I first met him, Qin Jin hadn't even been born yet. Now he's already sitting on the throne. There's a drastic change on the mainland every few decades, but the Qin family has always been able to sit on the throne. It's really puzzling." Lin Muyu frowned and thought that Qin Jin, the emperor, was actually quite benevolent. His heir, Qin, was even more of a kind-hearted girl. The Qin family sitting on the throne was perhaps better than anyone else sitting on the throne. It looks like you've already developed feelings for Qinin. The Bloodlord's eagle eyes stared at Lin Muyu as if he could see through all of his thoughts. He laughed in a trembling voice. Since ancient times, being sentimental is troublesome. Young man, love is a double-edged sword. If you fall deeply into it, you'll only be the one who suffers. As a man of indomitable spirit, you should be able to ride on an iron horse and establish immortal achievements. Who exactly are you? Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. How can you see through my thoughts? He tried his best to restrain his thoughts. He must not continue to expose his inner thoughts. At the same time, he extended the spirit pulse technique. Immediately, waves of mysterious spiritual power spread around his body. In the depths of his Yi, the power of the spirit pulse technique detected an external spiritual power. It seemed to be the Bloodlord's mind-reading ability. At this moment, the Bloodlord's spiritual power attacked his Yi. In an instant, the depths of his Yi were filled with waves. The Bloodlord's spiritual power was like a gust of wind that set off waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. These waves rushed towards the sky as if they were possessed and were about to occupy the entire Yi. Once the Yi was occupied by the Bloodlord's spiritual power, what would that mean? Perhaps his entire body would already be under his control. Lin Muyu hurriedly used all of his spiritual power to enter his Yi. In the next moment he had already appeared in the Yi. He was still dressed in the Divine Temple's battle robe. He held the burning prairie sword in his hand and raised his palm. His Do Chi exploded in the air and immediately suppressed the towering waves. After all, he was in his Yi and this place belonged to him. However, the Bloodlord still did not seem to be willing to give up. The invisible spiritual power quickly urged the second attack. More and stronger waves once again rose to the sky. Lin Muyu stood majestically in the air of his Yi. He gritted his teeth and roared as he raised his right arm and shouted, "Two luminaries demonic dance." Waves of demonic power surged into the long sword. The burning prairie sword quickly turned into a long sword that could reach the sky. It slashed down with the power of the two luminaries' demonic dance. With a bang, the waves surged and forcefully pushed the Bloodlord's spiritual power back. This time, the power of the two luminaries' demonic dance was very strong. It seemed that even the seven luminaries' demon emperor who was sleeping in the depths of his Yi was angry. After all, he treated this place as his home. Now, there was another person who wanted to move in. Unknowingly, Lin Muyu and the seven luminaries' demon emperor teamed up for the first time. Chapter 117. Ah! The Bloodlord cried out in shock. His entire body swayed on the back of the battle bear. His face was slightly pale, probably because the two luminous demonic dance hit his soul. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense also slowly came out of Yi and returned to her body. She let out a sigh of relief, but her expression wasn't too good. She looked at the Bloodlord sternly and said, "Your mind-reading technique seems to have lost its effect. You must be using this method to control Qigui, the third level of the heaven realm, right? Are you trying to use this method to control me?" The Bloodlord calmed himself down and smiled faintly. "Child, you are thinking too much. I just want to know more about you. If I wanted to kill you, I would have ordered Qigui to kill you an hour ago. I think you also know that Qigui can easily kill you." Lin Muyu didn't deny this and nodded. "Then why did you want me to come to the third floor? Do you know who I am?" The Bloodlord smiled faintly. "Oh. My name is Qin Hong. I am the younger brother of the current emperor, Qin Jin's grandfather." "What, you don't believe me?" The Bloodlord smiled faintly and suddenly raised his palm. Suddenly, a golden chain appeared in his palm. It was the God-binding lock. There was no stronger proof than this. Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. "Since you are from the Qin family, why are you imprisoned here?" The Bloodlord sneered. "Because of a mistake, I mobilized 300,000 soldiers from Tongtian province and planned to take over Lanyan city to become the emperor. Unfortunately, time was not on my side. The rebellion failed and I was exiled to this Tongtian tower. Kid, I just went into your Yi and understood some things. You don't belong to this world. Do you want to go back to your original world?" Lin Muyu was stunned. He came from another world and no one would believe him if he told them about it. However, the Bloodlord had the ability to read minds and he could do it. Looking at Lin Muyu's stunned expression, Bloodlord couldn't help but smile and said, "Your father Lin Shun must be very concerned about you right now, right? Besides, your original world was so colorful. You could run freely in the game, have brotherly love and have colorful nightlife. That beautiful female DJ called Susan from Soho Bar might still be talking about you every day. Are you really willing to part with her? Don't you want to go back?" "I want to." he said in a low voice. Bloodlord laughed and said, I do have a way that might allow you to cross dimensions and return to your original world. I just want to ask, are you willing to accept my help? Lin Muyu immediately gathered his thoughts and continued to make a defensive posture in his E-High using the Spirit Pulse technique. He did not want Bloodlord to enter his E-High to continue reading his thoughts. He smiled and said, What benefits will it bring you if you help me return to my original world? There's no need for benefits. I've been in this Tong Tian Tower for almost 100 years. What else can't I let go of? As long as I can help you, I'm very happy. Bloodlord spread his hands and looked like he was doing charity. Lin Muyu was completely on her guard now. It was unreasonable to help others for no reason, let alone someone like the Bloodlord. He was willing to kill his own brother for the throne. Such a person would definitely not help others for no reason. Then tell me, Lin Muyu said lightly. Bloodlord caressed Warbear's head and said with a smile, It's useless to say more. You'd better follow me to the top of the tower. Don't you want to see what's so special about the upper floors after entering the Tower of Babel? Lin Muyu nodded, Please lead the way. Little Black, let's go. Warbear roared and carried Bloodlord up to the 4th floor. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword and followed up cautiously. Chi Gue cupped his fist and walked at the back, as if he was afraid that Lin Muyu would suddenly attack Bloodlord. The 4th floor was empty. There was nothing. The 5th floor was the same. The 6th floor was the same. Just like that they climbed up floor by floor. When they reached the 17th floor, they could see the lightning and whirlpool outside through the small window. This place was extremely close to the blood whirlpool. When they stepped onto the 8th floor they were only 1 step away. Hua hua hua. The wind was so strong that it was hard to open one's eyes. Bloodlord didn't move at all. He had already released his territory to resist any invasion. Lin Muyu released the wall of the gourd to protect herself. The 18th floor was the top of Tong Tian Tower. Looking around, one could see the entire Lanyan city and all the surrounding scenery. The people on the ground could never see the top of the tower, but the people on the top of the tower could see through the entire Lanyan city. It was really magical. Above their heads was the blood whirlpool. There seemed to be a strong suction force in the whirlpool that was sucking everything on the ground. Leaves were flying up from the ground and were sucked into the whirlpool. Lin Muyu's battle robe was also fluttering in the wind. Fortunately, his cultivation was already considered to be above average, so he could still withstand it. He glanced at Bloodlord with an indifferent expression. It seemed that Bloodlord had used the mind-reading skill to see everything about his original world, but not everything about the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Otherwise he wouldn't be so calm. After all, the existence of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was too shocking to the world. Squinting at the blood whirlpool in front of him, Lin Muyu asked, What is this? A plane crack. Bloodlord smiled. There is only one such crack in the world. You can reach another completely different plane after jumping through it. That's why I brought you here. Your world may be behind this demon eye, but you still need to wait a little longer. Why? Lin Muyu asked. Because the plane behind this plane crack changes every 100 years. Now, the world behind the crack is the Heavenly Realm. The Heavenly Realm? Lin Muyu was stunned. In other words, the Heavenly Realm. Bloodlord looked up and smiled. The world of the Great Way is ever-changing. There are many people in the mortal world who only pursue immortality, but immortality is not attainable. The mortal body can't withstand the impact of the time sand of crossing planes. Child, there are only 2 ways for you to return to your original world. One is to become a god through cultivation. After stepping into the godly state, you can cross planes with your own strength. However, with your talent, I estimate that you will need at least a few 100 years of hard cultivation to step into the godly state. By then your family will have died, so there's no point in going back. The other way is to cross the plane in front of you by force and enter the heavenly realm to quickly cultivate and become a god. Lin Muyu was stunned. She smiled. If the heavenly realm is behind the plane crack, why don't you and Chigue go there? Bloodlord sighed. My legs have been cut off, so I can't regrow them. Xiao Hei is a beast, so he can't enter the heavenly realm. Chigue is even simpler. He is a mercenary king whose hands are stained with blood. His sins are too heavy, the time sand will definitely crush him into pieces. However, child, you are innocent and your body is the bloodline of a real dragon. You have the strongest physique in the world. The time sand won't be able to destroy your body, so you are the best candidate to enter the heavenly realm. Really? Yes. The Blood Lord raised his hand, and an invisible force spread out. Suddenly, the bloody vortex in front of him slowly dispersed the blood chi, and the scenery on the other side of the crack also slowly emerged. It was a beautiful picture. There was a lush green jungle and there were mountains floating above it. On the mountains there were many spirit palaces, crowned cranes, and auspicious clouds lingering. One could even see celestials flying between the mountains, riding on the clouds and mist from afar. This is the heavenly realm. Lin Muyu's eyes widened. She was a little dazed. She thought that the scenery was really good. The 3D image was really amazing. Yes, this is the heavenly realm. Bloodlord smiled. The process of you passing through the time sand will take about 15 minutes. With your bloodline of a real dragon, you will definitely be able to withstand it. If you want to become an expert that enters the godly state, then you don't have to hesitate anymore. However, I won't force you. If you are timid and only want to stay in the Shattered Cauldron Realm mainland, I won't blame you. At this moment, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor's mocking laughter suddenly came from the depths of Lin Muyu's heart. Ah, this old bastard, he actually thinks he can deceive me like this? Lin Muyu, if you want to die, then go over. I guarantee that you will die a horrible death. Why? Lin Muyu asked using his Ihai. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor's voice was very sharp. What is on the other side of this space fissure? You will know once you pass through it with your spiritual sense. Why do you need to ask me? This reminded Lin Muyu. He immediately calmed his mind and activated the spiritual pulse technique. His spiritual sense directly flew out of his body and went straight to the space fissure. The moment he passed through the fissure, he only saw the beautiful scenery of the heavenly realm disappear instantly. Instead, it was replaced by a bloody purgatory. An endless sea of blood-red magma floated in the sea, screaming mournfully. On top of a lonely mountain, a giant whose lower body was buried in the rocks roared angrily, "Qin Hong, you bastard, why aren't you sending me fresh souls? If you don't, I, the Flame Spirit Ghost King, will make you wish you were dead." Lin Muyu was slightly stunned and quickly withdrew his spiritual sense. Phew! He let out a sigh of relief and glanced at the Blood Lord. He smiled and said, "Since you can't enter the heavenly realm by yourself, how about I carry you and fly into the heavenly realm together? We can become gods together. How about that?" The Blood Lord was stunned and understood something. He laughed and said, "Sure enough, I can't fool you. That's right, behind the space fissure is actually the 11th level of purgatory. It is guarded by the Flame Spirit Ghost King. The Flame Spirit Ghost King needs fresh souls for his cultivation, so I sent most of the people who entered the Tower of Babel there. He will give me the lifespan I need. As for you, you are a little special, you actually didn't fall for it." As he said, the Blood Lord raised his palm and his battle energy revolved. He said, "Since you are not willing to enter, then I will personally send you in." Lin Muyu let out a low shout and activated the wall of the gourd. He held the burning prairie sword in his hand and the fire dragon sword spirit roared continuously. He was ready to attack. At that instant, the 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch spoke in Lin Muyu's will see all of a sudden. "Lin Muyu, don't die for nothing. Listen to me and jump into the crack of the plane. I'll help you defeat the Fire Essence Ghost Emperor." "You can defeat the Flame Spirit Ghost King?" Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor couldn't hide the contempt in his voice. "In the words of your world, a trash like the Flame Spirit Ghost King isn't even fit to carry my shoes." Chapter 118. Senior, please stop. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her arm and a bright smile appeared on her face. "You are the senior of the Qin family. Look at me, I am also a member of the Qin family's Imperial Guard. We can't fight among ourselves, right? How about this, I am willing to jump into this plane crack. You don't have to do anything. How about that?" "What the hell are you doing?" The Blood Lord raised his eyebrows and said, "If you want to jump, jump quickly. Don't talk nonsense here." "Alright." Lin Muyu turned around and quickly raised her battle energy to its peak. She stomped on the top of the tower and jumped into the plane crack. Since she would be killed by the Blood Lord if she stayed here, she might as well try her luck in purgatory. The 7 luminaries demon emperor shared a body with her, so he wouldn't let her die. However, she couldn't trust the 7 luminaries demon emperor completely. This demon wasn't a good person either. Since the worst outcome was death, she had to try it if there was a chance. Buzz. Her ears were ringing. The moment Lin Muyu entered the plane crack, she felt like she was suffocating. Her body was constantly twisting. The feeling of crossing through the plane wasn't pleasant. Streaks of fiery red light kept hitting her body. This was the time quicksand that the Blood Lord mentioned. However, it was a very hot quicksand. The burning sensation almost made Lin Muyu faint. She hurriedly channeled her martial soul and battle energy to protect her body. However, the moment her martial soul was summoned, it was shattered by the quicksand. The battle robe on her back caught fire immediately and was burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, the pants and leggings of the Holy Palace battle robe were made of cowhide. The cowhide was very precious and was resistant to fire and water. Not long after, the armor of the Holy Palace battle robe turned red and began to melt and peel off piece by piece. Lin Muyu was distressed. This handsome battle robe was gone just like that. After another minute, his combat boots were also melted. He could only fly barefoot in the quicksand following the airwaves. His upper body was completely exposed. His strong muscles and strong physique made him a little proud, but his pride was soon drowned by the burning pain. Every inch of his skin was suffering, but the true dragon blood flowing in his veins protected his skin from being burned. What was even more amazing was that even his handsome short hair was not burned. Otherwise it would not look good if he was bald. The whole process took about 5 minutes. He rushed out of the crack and turned into a flaming meteor, crashing to the ground. The location happened to be the lonely mountain in the sea of lava. As soon as Lin Muyu opened her eyes, she saw that she was about to crash. She hurriedly channeled her martial soul. The wall of the gourd touched the ground first, and she slid dozens of meters away with her body. As soon as she looked up, she saw the horrifying half-rotten face of the fire spirit ghost king. He looked at her while laughing. Finally, there's fresh flesh to eat again. Ah, that's great. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Are you sure you won't break your big teeth? You're courting death. The fire spirit ghost king suddenly waved his arm. The arm was hundreds of meters long and it fell from the sky with a crash. Lin Muyu was shocked. This kind of magical power was really amazing. She hurriedly used the butterfly steps of falling star steps to dodge. The dust behind her flew up, and the whole lonely mountain was shaking. However, Lin Muyu also noticed that after the fire spirit ghost king's attack, there was no ravine left on the ground. What was going on? There seemed to be only one explanation. The fire spirit ghost king didn't have a physical body at all. The behemoth in front of her was just a soul form. However, even if she was hit by a soul form, she would probably die. Once she died, she would become a soul. At that time, she would be at the mercy of others. No, strictly speaking, she would be at the mercy of the ghost. What? The gale wrapped around the fire spirit ghost king's arm, and he attacked again. Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted, 7 luminaries demon emperor, you still don't come out? Do you want to wait for me to die before coming out? Don't forget, there is nothing else here except this body of mine. This sentence was very powerful. It immediately made the 7 luminaries demon emperor unable to sit still. Lin Muyu opened the gate of Wuxia. In the next instant, the enormous figure of the 7 brilliance demon monarch burst out from the top of his head. It was still in the form of a soul, but it was a lot more arrogant. With his hands behind his back, the 7 luminaries demon emperor stood in the air, surrounded by divine light. He looked at the fire spirit ghost king indifferently and said, Fire spirit, do you still remember me? The fire spirit ghost king was stunned, and his face revealed a cold expression. 7 luminaries demon emperor? Haha, you actually hid in the body of a nameless kid and you are so weak. In fact, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had been squeezed by the treasure refining cauldron in Lin Muyu's Ehai. His soul power was getting weaker and weaker, and he might not be able to defeat the fire spirit ghost king. Anyway, it was best for the two of them to fight to the death. Monstrous flames. The fire spirit ghost king attacked first, and his arms waved out monstrous flames. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was not easy to deal with. He raised his palm and directly used the 4th luminaries and shouted, For luminaries demon god cry. Ghosts and spirits danced in his palm, causing the sky to change color. Bang! With a loud explosion, the flames of the fire spirit ghost king were directly smashed. The palm power continued to fly out, shattering half of the fire spirit ghost king's arm. But because it was in soul form, it only damaged its soul power and the arm quickly grew back. You old thing. The fire spirit ghost king's face was full of shame and anger. He moved his body on the ground, raised his arm and shouted, Heaven fire prairie. Countless flames fell from the sky. The 7 luminaries demon emperor raised both of his palms, and his body was full of destructive power. He had a sinister smile on his face. Come on, 5 luminaries 8 wastelands destruction. Bang! The flames soared into the sky and Lonely Mountain suddenly trembled again. The entire 11th level of Purgatory trembled because of the battle between the two powerhouses. Lin Muyu hurriedly ran far away so as not to be affected by the battle. He watched from afar. The power of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor was indeed squeezed out by him, and he was actually on par with the 5 Luminaries Demon Emperor. Very good, this was the effect I wanted. Goo goo. At this time his stomach growled again. He was not in soul form and he would starve to death if he did not eat, but where could he find food in this purgatory? There was boiling lava everywhere on Lonely Mountain. Even if there was a living thing, it would probably be burned to death, and there were ownerless ghosts floating in the lava. Could it be that they were eating ghosts? He touched his stomach and he wanted to die. Carrying the burning prairie sword, he wandered in Lonely Mountain, and after searching for a long time, the voices of the two powerhouses echoed in his ears. Flying fire sacrifice, I will kill you. 6 luminaries heaven and earth calamity, I will kill your whole family. Firethorn heaven and earth, you are dead. 7 luminary star transformation, fire essence, you idiot, if you want to kill me wait another 10,000 years. Among the voices of the two powerhouses, Lin Muyu quickly distinguished another sound, goo goo. Goo goo. Damn, is this the sound of a frog? His heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly carried the burning prairie sword and followed the sound. It was a crack between the rocks, and when he went in he saw a frog with a fiery body. This frog was about the size of a fist, and it was much bigger than an ordinary frog. He had seen this thing before. In the Conquest game, the fire frog was a level 10 food ingredient, and it was very delicious after cooking. Catch the fire frog. Bah. His palm fell to the ground, but he caught nothing. The fire frog's jumping speed was very fast and it was already far away, but this was not a problem for Lin Muyu. He just raised his hand, and the calabash vine broke out of the ground, instantly binding the fire frog. Walking forward, he cut off the fire frog's head, and held its fat and tender body in his palm. It felt hot, but there was no water, so how was he going to cook it? And this was a very serious problem. Without water, how was he going to survive? At this moment, the stones on the ground not far away suddenly began to tremble, and in the next moment, with a pa sound, a white arrow of water rushed out of the ground, and it was boiling hot water. For a moment Lin Muyu was overjoyed. It was an underground spring. Too lucky, there was actually an underground spring in this kind of place. There was simply no such thing as a dead end. He happily took off his leg. Because the material was impervious to water and fire, he directly took some underground spring water, and found some branches that had dried up for tens of thousands of years to make a bonfire. He wrapped the leather into the shape of a pot and placed it on top to cook. Then he caught 2 fire frogs, removed the skin, and threw the 3 fire frogs into the pot to cook. At this time he couldn't go for seasonings like green onions and coriander, and there wasn't even any oil. It was already good enough to fill his stomach. Not long after, the water began to boil again, and the meat of the fire frog emitted a faint fragrance. In the distance, the souls of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ghost King were still fighting. The starlight shot into the sky, looking extremely dazzling, but it would still take some time to kill the Fire Spirit Ghost King. Lin Muyu couldn't be bothered with these 2 crazy people, and minded his own business eating the fire frogs. 3 fire frogs were enough, and after eating he was already full. He patted his bulging stomach, drank some soup and rested on the hot rock for a while. He felt that there was no longer anything he wanted to pursue in life. But at this moment, a burning sensation suddenly came from his stomach. What's going on? He frowned. Could it be a stomachache? At this moment Lulu flew out and said, "Brother, you ate too much fire frog meat. This meat is pure fire attribute, you can't eat the fire frog meat without getting rid of the fire." Damn, Lin Muyu asked, "Lulu, how do I get rid of the fire?" Lulu's little face instantly turned red. Although Lulu is very willing to serve brother, but Lulu doesn't have a real body. Besides, Lulu's body is so small, I'm afraid it won't fit brother's size. Ah. I'm not talking about this fire, brother, you're too evil. Lulu said to get rid of the fire energy. Brother, you're thinking too much. Lin Muyu's face darkened. Looking at this beautiful elf officer acting coquettishly, she couldn't help but say, "Damn, I only said 1 sentence and you actually filled in so much, I have to give it to you. Lulu, you better tell me how to get rid of the fire, my stomach feels like it's burning up." Lulu looked around and said, "Brother, look at the spiritual light on the surface of the lava, it's actually spiritual energy scattered by souls. Because ghosts are of the Een attribute, if brother can refine this spiritual light, you should be able to adjust the heat energy in your body." And okay. Chapter 119. Late at night, starlight shone on the Grand Duke's residence in Seven Seas City. The glazed tiles reflected the starlight in the sky. Tuck, tuck, tuck. A horse galloped in and a graceful figure rode into the residence. Two guards immediately went up to her. "Who is it? How dare you trespass the Duke of Seven Seas' residence?" The girl on the horse lifted her cloak, revealing an elegant and refined face. It was Tang Xiaoxi. "Ah, it's Princess Shi." The two guards hurriedly bowed respectfully and said, "Why did Princess Shi return to Seven Seas City so late?" And there was no news at all. Tang Xiaoxi looked anxious. "Let's not talk so much. Where is Grandpa?" "Duke Lan is resting in his residence." "Bring me there." "Yes." After passing through the pavilion, they arrived at Duke Kanglin's residence. This place didn't seem luxurious at all. It was just an extremely ordinary wooden house sitting alone by the lake. There was still light inside. Tang Lan was wearing a duke's brocade robe, and he was reading a book on military strategy. His beard and hair had already turned white, and his old face looked a little tired. Dong dong. With a knock on the door, Tang Xiaoxi said from outside, "Grandpa, are you asleep? Xiaoxi is back." Tang Lan's heart instantly trembled. He put down the book in his hand, stood up and went straight to the door. When he opened the door, he saw Tang Xiaoxi standing under the moonlight. He couldn't help but smile. "Xiaoxi, why did you return to Seven Seas City so late? You should have told Grandpa in advance." Tang Xiaoxi immediately held Tang Lan's arm and said with a smile, "Didn't I want to give Grandpa a surprise?" "Really?" Tang Lan squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "I'm afraid it's not just a surprise. You returned to Seven Seas City for Lin Muyu, right?" Tang Xiaoxi was taken aback. She opened her mouth wide and smiled shyly. "So Grandpa has guessed it?" Tang Lan looked at her precious granddaughter very gently and said with a smile, "Humph, I also have a lot of spies in Lanyan City, okay? I already know that you are friends with that boy named Lin Muyu. So, granddaughter has grown up and is looking for a husband. As your grandfather, should I prepare a betrothal gift for you as soon as possible?" "Grandpa," Tang Xiaoxi frowned and said, "It doesn't matter if it's a betrothal gift or not. I'm worried that he's about to die in Tongtian Tower. This brat destroyed the nurturing hall, killed several members of the Imperial Guard, and injured an officer of the nurturing hall. This punishment is enough for him to die 7 or 8 times over. Exiling him to Skysplit Tower is already the lightest punishment." Tang Lan's eyes turned cold. "Moreover, Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan also wants to kill Lin Muyu. If we, the Seven Seas Tang sect, don't get involved if we can." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and tears filled her eyes. "Grandpa, do you only care about power and weight? Xiaoxi likes Lin Muyu, don't you know that?" Tang Lan was also stunned. His gaze became gentle as he caressed his granddaughter's hair. "Xiaoxi, it wasn't easy for our Tang sect to have such a foundation in Seven Seas City. You should know how much Grandpa has sacrificed. Although we can be said to have a strong army, we definitely don't have the power to go against Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan. He is the world's #1 military god." "Grandpa." Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and her eyes turned red. "If you don't plead for Lin Muyu, Xiaoxi will regret it for the rest of her life. Grandpa, can't you help me just this once?" Tang Lan took a deep breath. He really couldn't dissuade her grandpa. "All right then. Go pack your luggage. Tomorrow morning, Grandpa will accompany you to Lanyan City to meet the Emperor. Is that okay?" "Yes, thank you, Grandpa." The girl's tears turned into a smile. "Hurry up and go to sleep. We still have a long journey tomorrow. I'll ask the servants to prepare something delicious for you." "Yes, yes." Watching Tang Xiaoxi leave happily, Tang Lan sighed. Looking at the faint light in the night, he said indifferently, "Silly child, a lifetime is long. It's not that hard to forget someone." At this time in purgatory, the person Tang Xiaoxi was worried about was unaware of the situation. He was still happily refining the spiritual fire. The huge crafting cauldron opened. Lin Muyu raised his battle chi and absorbed the spiritual light on the surface of the surrounding magma. Not long after, he absorbed hundreds of spiritual lights and gathered them together. Then he began to refine them. The cauldron trembled slightly and spat out the 3rd layer of earth fire. The spiritual lights danced wildly in the cauldron and let out mournful wails as if their souls were being refined. Not long after, Lin Muyu's forehead was covered in sweat. The materials in purgatory were indeed very different from those in the human world. At least, these spiritual lights were not so easy to refine. The repeated impact of these spiritual lights was a great hindrance to Lin Muyu and even caused him internal injuries. It took him a whole night to completely refine these spiritual lights. They turned into wisps of spiritual fire and seeped into the depths of the crafting cauldron, the fourth layer. But the amount was too little. It was not enough for the crafting cauldron to produce the fourth layer of fire. So, he continued to do this over and over again. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. Swoosh, swoosh. Another few spiritual lights turned into flames and seeped into the fourth layer of the crafting cauldron. Finally, the entire crafting cauldron shone brightly. A strange feeling of fullness made Lin Muyu realize that the refinement was successful. Successfully refining the spiritual lights into spiritual fire allowed the crafting cauldron to comprehend the fourth layer of fire, spiritual fire. Looking into the distance, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Flame Spirit Ghost King had been fighting for 4 days and 4 nights, but there was still no sign of them resting. They were still fighting chaotically. Looking at the situation, it was likely that they would not be finished without more than 10 days. Lin Muyu leisurely put away the crafting cauldron and continued to catch fire frogs to fill his stomach. Counting the days, he had been in the Tower of Babel for 10 days. Not only did he survive, he actually transmigrated to the plane of purgatory. This inevitably made him a little proud. However, looking at the plane crack that was about 30 meters high in the sky, he was troubled. It was easy to come in, but how was he going to get out? After all, he could not fly, and the height he could jump was at most about 10 meters. Going back would be a very serious problem. Croak, croak. After getting the first fire frog, he went to catch the second one. Fortunately, the number of fire frogs in the rock crack was very abundant. It would not be a problem to eat for a month. In the end, he did not find the third one for a long time. Instead, he went deeper and deeper. In the depths of the rock crack, a scorching energy surged. He continued to walk forward and turned around a stone wall. Suddenly, he saw a patch of fiery red in front of him. It was magma deep underground, but it didn't seem like ordinary magma. There were invisible arms mixed in the magma, and there seemed to be ghosts howling mournfully. What the hell was this? Lulu said in the Ehai, "Brother, this is the flame of purgatory. It can be called purgatory fire. The intensity of the flame is slightly higher than spiritual fire. Brother can try to refine this kind of infernal fire and refine it into the 5th layer of the crafting cauldron. This way the crafting cauldron should be able to play a greater role." Yes. He nodded firmly. After eating the fire frog, he immediately tried to refine the infernal fire. The refining flame he used was the spiritual fire that he had just refined on the 4th layer. The spiritual fire, under the enhancement of the crafting cauldron, became hotter and purer. This was the capital to refine the infernal fire. However, this process was not easy. There was no progress for the whole night. Instead, he was exhausted. It did not matter. He continued to work hard. Anyway, he had plenty of time. He counted the days while trying to refine the infernal fire. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ghost King naturally fought to their heart's content. After fighting for a few days, they were still fighting fiercely, looking determined to kill. Therefore, the entire 11th layer of purgatory was filled with an inexplicable sense of joy. After traveling for 5 days, nearly 5,000 people from the 7 Seas Tang sect arrived. They appeared outside Lanyan City in a grandiose manner. From afar, the Imperial Guard Feng Jixing had already led his troops to welcome them. 10,000 Imperial Guards lined up outside the city to welcome them. On the surface, it seemed like a welcoming gesture. In reality, everyone could see that the Imperial Guards were prepared for the arrival of so many people from the 7 Seas Tang sect. Feng Jixing, dressed in a white robe, urged his horse forward. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, "General Feng Jixing pays his respects to Duke Lan." Tang Lan waved her hand and smiled. "General Feng, you don't have to be so polite." "Duke Lan?" Feng Jixing asked tentatively. "Duke Lan, why did you bring 5,000 cavalry to Lanyan City?" Tang Lan replied, "It's all for Xiao Shi. This child is too stubborn. I'm afraid that if I don't plead for Lin Muyu, Xiao Shi will definitely not want me as her grandfather." Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. "Grandfather, what are you talking about? Why would I not want you?" Feng Jixing laughed. "Since Duke Lan is pleading for you, then this general is willing to lead the way. Duke Lan, follow me." "Wait, General Feng." Tang Lan pointed at the 7 Seas Tang sect cavalry behind him and said, "These 5,000 heavy cavalry will stand guard outside the imperial city. Xiao Shi and I will follow you to have an audience with His Majesty." Feng Jixing revealed a trace of gratitude. Thank you, Duke Lan, for understanding Feng Jixing's difficulties. Haha, we are all important officials of the Empire. Naturally, we have to consider His Majesty's interests. Let's go, Duke Lan. This general will lead the way. All right. When Tang Lan arrived at the Zetian Palace Hall, Qin Jin personally came to welcome him. This was enough to show how much the Empire valued Seven Seas City. After welcoming Tang Lan into the palace hall, Qin Jin smiled as if he had foresight. Duke Lan, you must be here for Lin Muyu, right? Tang Lan nodded. That's right. Xiao Shi and Lin Muyu have a very good relationship. Sai, as her grandfather, I really can't dissuade her. I've really spoiled her rotten since she was young. Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. How could that be? Xiao Shi is exceptionally intelligent and kind. This is a good thing. However, Duke Lan Lin Muyu has already been in the heaven-reaching tower for 10 days, and there's still no news for now. Tang Lan said, this old official doesn't dare to overstep his boundaries. I only hope that Your Majesty can shorten the deadline slightly and change it from 30 days to 20 days. How about it? This way this old official will be able to answer to Xiao Shi. Tang Xiaoxi stood at the side and looked at Qin Jin with a burning gaze. Your Majesty, please grant this. Qin Jin took a deep breath and looked at the group of officials at the side. He asked, Duke Lan is personally pleading for leniency. Minister Zheng Luoxing, do the two of you have any objections? Zheng Yifun's expression was a little ugly. He cupped his fists and said, this old official will listen to Your Majesty's decision. Luoxing also took the opportunity to say, this humble official is the same. Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. That's good. Feng Jixing, listen to my command. Open the heaven-reaching tower's gates in 10 days. If Lin Muyu is still alive, then let him go and let him return to Zetian Palace Hall to await further orders. Many thanks, Your Majesty. Feng Jixing was overjoyed. Qin Jin turned around with a look of joy on his face. With this, he would be able to answer to his daughter, Qin Yin. However, there had been no news from Lin Muyu for many days, so it was likely that she had met with misfortune. Chapter 120. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days passed. At the foot of the Tower of Babel, thousands of Imperial Army cavalrymen stood in formation with spears in their hands, their banners fluttering in the wind, blocking out the sun. Feng Jixing gripped his wind cutter tightly, his face filled with worry as he said, Men, open the door. Yes, my lord. Two Imperial Army soldiers walked forward with keys in their hands, opened the door and abruptly pulled it open. Immediately, a gust of cold wind blew out, causing the two soldiers to turn pale as they took several steps back. Where's you? Qin Yin frowned slightly. She raised her hand and pulled out her sword from the back of her horse. Her entire body was enshrouded in the light of the god-binding chains as she walked towards the Tower of Babel. Your Highness, be careful. Qin Lei raised his lightning cutter and quickly followed. Beside him, Tang Xiaoxi also pulled out her sword and followed. Standing in front of the pitch-black door, Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with worry and anxiety as she called out softly, are you there? You, hurry up and come out. On the side, a Divine Might Battalion's 1,000-man commander said respectfully, Your Highness, since 10 days ago, this kid has not responded to the outside world. The food and water we've placed on the first floor have not been touched. Look, they're just there, they haven't been touched. At the door, there were 3 bags of dry rations and piles of water bags, neatly placed there, untouched. Impossible? Qin Yin's heart ached as if a knife had been twisted in it. She took a step forward and rushed into the tower. Xiaoyin. Qin Jin's voice sounded from behind her, his tone extremely strict. You can't go in. Suddenly, Qin Yin's body could not move, an invisible domain power spread out in the surroundings. It was the power of the Saint Realm. Lei Hong, dressed in a white robe, slowly walked out of the crowd and said, Your Highness, Lin Muyu is not in the Tower of Babel, I can't feel his aura, give up. As he spoke, Lei Hong let out a sigh, his old face seemed to age a few years in an instant. No. Qin Yin stood there in a daze. Tang Xiaoxi grit her teeth, her eyes filled with tears. Her beautiful eyes glared at Sky Split Tower as she sobbed, Lin Muyu, you won't die so easily. Tell me you're still alive, come out. However, no one in the empty tower gave her a response. Qin Jin raised his hand and said, Imperial Forest Guards, go in and investigate. Do not step into the second floor. Yes. A few royal guards galloped away on their horses. Chu Huayin was at the front. He jumped down from his horse and entered the first level of the Tong Tian Tower in a flash. His eyes were wide open. Come out. But the walls were empty and Lin Muyu was nowhere to be seen. Chu Huayin looked at the stone steps leading to the second floor, gritted his teeth and rushed over with his sword. The two royal guards behind him hurriedly said, "Sir Chu Huayin, you can't go to the second floor, this is His Majesty's order." However, Chu Huayin still rushed to the second floor. He looked around and only saw piles of bones. "You." He was momentarily confused and stood there in a daze. Why did you leave just like that? Do you know that Yao is still waiting for you to come back? You bastard, you don't keep your words." Behind him, one of the royal guards said softly, "Brother Chu, forget it. You can't go up anymore, otherwise His Majesty will punish you for defying the order." Not long after, Chu Huayin and the other two royal guards walked out of Skysplit Tower, their faces filled with loneliness and despair. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi already knew the answer. "Rustle, rustle." Qin Jin dismounted from his horse and walked to Qin Yin's side in his dragon robe. He stretched out his hand to support his daughter's shoulder and said gently, "Xiaoyin, give up. Lin Muyu won't be able to survive these 20 days. Go back with me." No. Qin Yin bit her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with determination. She said, "It's only 20 days, it's not even a month yet. You will definitely come out. Father, you should go back, I want a guard here." Qin Jin sighed. "Forget it. After 30 days you must return to Zetian Palace Hall. Sir Lei Hong, you will stay here and be responsible for protecting Her Highness Yin, right?" Lei Hong cupped his fists. This old subject understands. Qin Jin looked at Tang Xiaoxi again and asked, "Xiaoxi, are you also going to stay here?" Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were filled with hatred. She didn't look at the emperor and only nodded lightly. If Lin Muyu really died in Skysplit Tower, who would be the greatest sinner? Perhaps in Tang Xiaoxi's heart, it would be the emperor in front of her. The autumn wind rustled Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's cloaks. The two beautiful girls stubbornly stayed at the bottom of the tower, waiting for Lin Muyu, who might or might not appear. In the blink of an eye, another few days had passed. The battle between the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ghost King had come to an end. Both of their auras were much weaker. Deep in the rock stratum of Lonely Mountain, Lin Muyu was still cultivating. The crimson lava kept surging upwards, mixed with strands of ghost-shaped energy that lingered around the soul spirit. The scorching heat kept attacking Lin Muyu's body, but he remained motionless. He opened his hands to control the crafting cauldron, causing it to continuously absorb and refine the surging hellfire. Closing his eyes, he allowed the hellfire to pass through his skin and enter his blood vessels. Every single cell in his body was being fused with by the hellfire. Soon, the scorching red light seeped out from his skin. His entire body looked glowing and smooth, just like a newborn baby. Ah! He let out a light breath and exhaled a mouthful of turbid breath. The hellfire was refined. Counting with his fingers, it was already the 20th day since he entered the 11th level of purgatory. After a full 16 days, he finally completed the refinement and assimilation of the hellfire. The crafting cauldron also had the 5th level of refining fire. However, Lin Muyu did not feel happy because he had already felt that the strength of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's aura had completely crushed the Fire Spirit Ghost King. This was not a good thing. Since the soul of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had been released from the Yihai, he would definitely not give up. Perhaps after killing the Fire Spirit Ghost King, there would be a dangerous battle of possession. Carrying the burning prairie sword, he quickly exited the rock stratum. From afar, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's hands were filled with the power of the stars, and his palms were blasting the Fire Spirit Ghost King's body into pieces. After fighting for half a month, the Fire Spirit Ghost King was already on the verge of death. He did not have the strength to fight back. On the contrary, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was getting stronger and stronger. After a few consecutive palms, the Fire Spirit Ghost King's lower body was smashed into pieces. 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, you beast! The Fire Spirit Ghost King roared. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's face was filled with a demonic smile. Fire Spirit, I have to thank you. Without your power, I'm afraid I would not have regained my freedom. Thank you so much, old friend. What did you say? The Fire Spirit Ghost King was stunned. In the next moment, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor leaped up, raised the power of the 7 glorious stars transformation, and slammed it down, directly blasting the Fire Spirit Ghost King's body into pieces. All the essence condensed into a blood-red soul light. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor quickly rushed down, opened his mouth, and began to absorb the soul light with a ferocious expression. Devour. In just a few seconds, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had already devoured the fire spirit ghost king's soul. Instantly, his own soul power instantly increased by several times. When he turned around and saw Lin Muyu, he could not help but sneer. "Lin Muyu, your good days are over." Lin Muyu held the long sword and her face was pale. She quickly summoned her martial soul and the wall of the gourd. Brr. The 7 luminaries demon emperor roared and rushed down, holding a vast power of stars in his palm. He shouted, "7 glorious stars transformation." Actually, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's counterattack was already within Lin Muyu's expectations, so he reacted very quickly. He suddenly stomped on the ground with one foot, and instantly, a huge refining cauldron appeared around him and the 7 luminaries demon emperor, enveloping him and the 7 luminaries demon emperor. The 5th layer of refining fire, hellfire, rained down, wreaking havoc around the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Not only that, Lin Muyu raised both of his palms, and the shape of the world's living beings was reflected in his palms. He leaped forward and both of his palms blasted out. 3 luminaries all calamity. Boom. A deafening explosion shook the purgatory plane. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's strength had already been weakened by nearly 90% in the refining cauldron, and the strength of his soul form wasn't strong enough. Now that he was attacked by the 3rd luminaries that Lin Muyu had just comprehended, his soul form instantly started to collapse. His face was filled with disbelief. You actually refined hellfire?" "Yes." With a roar, Lin Muyu raised the power of the refining cauldron to its peak, and instantly refined the 7 luminaries demon emperor's body into a trace of spiritual breath. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was also smart, and he quickly flew into Lin Muyu's high, narrowly avoiding the danger of being refined by Lin Muyu on the spot. "How is it? Are you convinced?" Lin Muyu asked in high. The 7 luminaries demon emperor scolded loudly. "I'm not convinced. You bastard, just you wait." As this human and demon often scolded each other in high, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had unknowingly learned a standard northeastern accent, and his scolding was rather imposing. Lin Muyu no longer cared about the 7 luminaries demon emperor, and took a deep breath to adjust his chaotic blood vessels. He raised his head to look at the demon eye in the sky. This plane crack was still moving with lightning and gales, but it was too high from the ground. After all, he was a mortal and couldn't jump into the plane crack. Moreover, what was waiting for him on the other side of the plane crack? Thinking of this, he muttered to himself and released his spiritual sense, passing through the plane crack. Sure enough, on the other side was the Blood Lord and Qi Gui, who were waiting anxiously. They were also looking at him. Once he passed through the plane crack, he would definitely have to face the attacks of the Blood Lord and Qi Gui. Even though he had improved, he was definitely not a match for the two of them. Even Qi Gui's attack alone would be hard to resist. After making up his mind, he looked around and picked up 2 huge rocks. Then he looked at the demon eye in the sky, took a deep breath, gathered his qi and threw the 2 rocks out. He bent his body and leaped forward. His bare feet fiercely crushed the first rock in the sky, and borrowed the force to jump another 10 meters. Then he accurately crushed the second rock and borrowed the force to jump another 10 meters. His whole body rushed straight into the plane crack, and suddenly, a scorching air wrapped around his body. It was the time quicksand. Enduring this kind of pain for the second time was nothing, not to mention he had the protection of the true dragon bloodline. Chapter 121. The scorching pain from the time quicksand seemed to only train his tenacious willpower and soul. The moment he passed through the plane, Lin Muyu had already raised his do qi to the extreme. He raised his right palm gently and gathered all the do qi in his body at one point, transforming it into 7 luminaries' profound energy. Swoosh! With a flash of light, he had already appeared on the top floor of Tong Tian Tower. What came into view was Lord Blood and Qi Gui's appearance. "Lin Muyu?" Qi Gui roared as his fists punched over with intense flames. He actually used his full strength. Lin Muyu's palm fell confidently. This palm was full of strength and the surroundings of his palms were filled with the dancing stars of all living beings, which was extremely mysterious. 3 luminaries calamity. Peng. The peak of the palm forcefully pushed Qi Gui back for more than 10 steps and he fell heavily onto the wall while Lin Muyu used the force to glide for more than 10 meters. With a flip, he jumped down from the 18th floor of Tong Tian Tower. "You!" Lord Blood was furious as he shouted, "You little bastard, how dare you tease me like this?" Lin Muyu did not plan to go down from the stairs at all. Instead, she planned to jump down from the top floor. Otherwise, she would not be able to escape from the pursuit of the Blood Lord and the war bear that had lived for more than 10,000 years. Buzz. He summoned the green gourd in midair and the indigo gourd protected him. At the same time, he activated his Do Chi and hit the ground with his palm to reduce the force. Otherwise, no one would be able to withstand crashing into the ground from a height of more than 10 meters. On the ground, there was actually a group of people guarding there. The strong wind hit his eyes and Lin Muyu couldn't see who it was at all. Ah. On the ground, Tang Xiaoxi widened her eyes as she saw it clearly. A figure wrapped by the gourd was descending from the sky. She quickly pointed at the sky and shouted, "Xiaoyin, look!" Qin quickly looked up and her beautiful face was instantly filled with ecstasy. "It's him! It's him!" Bang! Dust flew everywhere and Lin Muyu slid on the ground for nearly 20 meters. He stood up in a sorry state, and there was nothing on his upper body except for his tattered pants. When he looked up, he realized that the three great beauties, Qin, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao were standing not far away. Beside them were Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying and Qin Yen. In an instant Lin Muyu's face flushed red. This was too embarrassing. Everything had been seen. However, at this moment, a mighty force came from above his head. He couldn't care less about his shame and hurriedly rolled away along the ground. The roar of the war bear came from behind him. The Blood Lord actually rode the war bear and attacked. A god-binding lock fell on the place where Lin Muyu was half a second ago, blasting the dust into pieces. "Who is it?" Qin Lei raised his long saber and rushed over, shouting in a low voice, "Old fellow, why do you have my Qin family's martial spirit?" "Big brother Qin Lei, step back." Lin Muyu shouted loudly, causing Qin, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao to stop in their tracks. Each of them was dumbfounded. "Who is this old man?" Qin blinked her eyes. "He is from the Qin family." Lin Muyu raised his long sword and turned around. He looked at the Blood Lord from afar, cupped his fists and said, "Senior, give up. I have already come out from the Tong Tian Tower. Why are you still unwilling to let me go?" The Blood Lord's face was filled with anger. At this moment his appearance rapidly aged. Strictly speaking, he became older. In the blink of an eye, his entire person was like a mummy, as if he could disappear with the wind at any time. Lifespan. This was the only reason why the Blood Lord didn't leave the top of the tower. He needed to absorb the death energy from the purgatory plane to maintain his life. Otherwise, once he left the top of the tower, his life would be gone with the wind. The terrifying scene in front of them made Qin and the other two beauties turn pale. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, heaved a sigh of relief. He had not guessed wrongly. The Blood Lord was an extremely greedy person. For the sake of the throne, he would not hesitate to kill his own brother. It was impossible for such a person to give up and stay in the Tong Tian Tower. There must be something in the tower that he could not give up. Now the answer had appeared. The Tong Tian Tower had what he needed the most: life. "Little Black, let's go." The Blood Lord gently stroked the head of the war bear and urged it to return to the Tong Tian Tower. The crisis was then resolved. "You quickly put it on." Chu Huaying had already prepared a set of armor for him. It was a set of battle robes of the Tiger Guards. After putting on the new robes, his entire temperament had undergone a huge change. From the initial wild and unrestrained, it had transformed into a cold and arrogant one. If he could shave his beard, it would probably be even more perfect. Who was that person just now?" asked Qin. "Your great-grandfather's younger brother, a person who committed treason." "Oh." Qin did not understand and did not continue to ask. After putting on the battle boots, Lin Muyu flipped over and mounted the horse. At this moment, a group of people galloped over from not far away. It was the military police battalion. Commander Xiang Yu carried the Carnage Spear and walked at the front. "Lin Muyu, you actually came out alive." Xiang Yu smiled coldly. "It seems that the rumors about the Tong Tian Tower are not true. Even someone like you can come out alive. The Tong Tian Tower is not as scary as the rumors say." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Then why don't you go in and try? Are you provoking me?" Xiang Yu raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't think that you are free after coming out of the Tong Tian Tower. Dream on." "Xiang Yu, what do you mean?" Qin Lei carried the thunder cutter and asked. "Nothing. I just want to see how his cultivation is progressing." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiang Yu had already jumped off the horse. Chaotic energy surged around his body. With a wave of his palm, an overwhelming attack blasted towards Lin Muyu. Chaotic 9 strikes, the third strike, Chaotic Heaven Splitter. Lin Muyu had already expected this. Xiang Yu was naturally arrogant and would definitely test her. Therefore, the moment Xiang Yu made his move, Lin Muyu had already rapidly increased the strength of her battle chi. With a wave of her right palm, the constellation of all living beings appeared, 3 luminaries all calamity. Bang! Light splashed in all directions. The collision of the two forces formed a shockwave that swept in all directions. Lin Muyu suddenly landed on the ground. With a pa sound, the butterfly steps of the falling star step unloaded the force on the ground and stood firmly. On the contrary, Xiang Yu was actually sent flying 7 or 8 steps back by this attack. He stood firmly in a sorry state. Looking at his palm, his face had an expression of disbelief. Obviously, he did not expect that Lin Muyu could actually shake off his sure-kill attack. After all, over 20 days ago, this attack was something that Lin Muyu could not block at all. Xiang Yu, have you eaten a leopard's guts? Qin Yin spurred her horse over. Her beautiful face was filled with anger. Could it be that you don't know Father's decree? Once Lin Muyu steps out of the Tong Tian Tower, he will be exempted from all punishment. As the commander of the military police battalion, you actually attacked him here. Are you openly defying Father's decree? This lowly general does not dare. Xiang Yu smiled awkwardly. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, this lowly general is just testing how much Lord Lin Muyu's cultivation has improved in the Tong Tian Tower. I definitely have no intention of defying the decree. Your Highness, please investigate clearly. Qin Yin said coldly, you may leave. I will bring him back to the Zetian Palace Hall. Yes, Your Highness. Lin Muyu stood motionless on the spot. Her body could not move. She had used the power of the third element 3 times in a row. Although she did not use her full strength, the backlash on her body was very strong. After a whole 10 minutes, she finally mounted the horse with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. She returned to the Zetian Palace Hall, but this time her mood was completely different. She knelt at the foot of the Emperor's steps with Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and Chu Huayin. Her heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. At this moment, Lin Muyu finally understood what it meant to be in the Emperor's company was like living with a tiger. Heaven's might was unpredictable. Her life and death depended on the happiness and anger of others. How could this not be a kind of sorrow? Lin Muyu. Qin Jin looked at her indifferently and said, you were able to come out of the Tong Tian Tower alive. This is enough to prove that you indeed did not deserve to die. After this ordeal, you can resume your position and continue to serve as the Tiger Guard of the Imperial Guards. Commander Qin Lei will prepare everything for you. You can return to duty at the patrol station in the afternoon. Your Majesty, does my request from back then still count? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Jin was stunned. What request? Abolish the Imperial Army's concubine system. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and said, this is a matter of great importance. It's not something that I can abolish just because I say so. However, I will consider it. You don't need to say anything more. Return to the patrol station. Lin Muyu had completely given up. He stood up, cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, I request to join the Eagle Guard. Eagle Guard? Qin Jin was stunned. What? Qin Yin, who was sitting beside the Emperor, was also anxious. She asked, why do you want to become an Eagle Guard? That's a tough job. You'll have to stay outside the Imperial City for many years. I know. Naturally, Lin Muyu would not say that he did not want to stay by the Emperor's side. He only said, I want to gain more experience in the outside world. I hope Your Majesty will allow me to do so. Qin Jin smiled faintly and nodded. Since you want to become an Eagle Guard, I'll allow you. However, it's not that easy to become an Eagle Guard. Not only do you have to patrol the safety of the Imperial City's surroundings, but you also have to enter the dragon-seeking forest to hunt some precious spirit beasts and gather precious materials and meat for the Zetian Palace's use. Can you do it? I can. Lin Muyu's gaze was calm. Good. Qin Jin stood up and said, Then I'll promote Lin Muyu to Eagle Guard. You'll be able to command 10 Imperial Guards and 100 Imperial Guards. However, you'll also have to patrol every month. I hope you'll be able to complete it smoothly. Yes. When Lin Muyu turned around and left, Qin Yin revealed a trace of disappointment. After all, she had hoped that Lin Muyu would stay in the Zetian Palace. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu had chosen to leave. Qin Lei, Chu Huayin, and Feng Jixing followed her out of the Zetian Palace. Qin Lei frowned and said, It's tough being an Eagle Guard. You're constantly on the move, and your position is the lowest among the Imperial Guards. Why do you want to become an Eagle Guard? Lin Muyu shook her head and said, My personality is too straightforward. I'm not suitable to stay in the Zetian Palace. Feng Jixing smiled at the side. It's fine to become an Eagle Guard. There's no need to force yourself. All right. Brother Qinlei, I have a request. Oh, what request? That Wei Chou, if he's willing to become an Eagle Guard, can you assign him to be under my command? What do you think? Okay, no problem. Outside the palace, Chu Yao was standing in the distance. She was leading a white horse. She walked forward and said with a smile, Are you all right now? Yes, I'm all right now. Chu Huaying smiled and said, however, Yu has chosen to lower his rank and become an Eagle Guard. Chu Yao blinked. It's all right. It's best that he's alive. That's true. Chapter 122. As expected, Wei Chou readily agreed to Qin Lei's transfer, and immediately changed from Tiger Guard to Eagle Guard. His salary was reduced by a lot, but he did not seem to mind it at all. In the afternoon, Lin Muyu rode his horse back to temple alone. Master, you're back? A few temple guards looked at him excitedly. The news of Lin Muyu being exiled to Tongtian Tower had long been known by everyone. Now that they saw Lin Muyu coming back alive, everyone was naturally surprised. After entering temple, everything was the same as before. A group of sparring masters and instructors were focused on training. Only one person led his horse and met Lin Muyu face to face. It was none other than Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei, where are you going? Lin Muyu was surprised. Zhang Wei looked at him in surprise, but then he scratched his head and laughed. Master Lin Muyu, you're back? Unfortunately, old Zhang, have to leave. I just received my orders yesterday. I have to leave temple. Where are you going to work? Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing personally recommended me to be a Brigadier General in the Imperial Guard. It should be around the rank of 1,000-men commander. Then congratulations. Lin Muyu smiled. This can be considered as a promotion. Zhang Wei felt a little helpless and laughed. Actually, I still prefer working in temple. I am too straightforward. If I go to the Imperial Guard, I don't know how many people I will offend because of my personality. Lin Muyu patted his chest and said, Look, didn't I also leave temple and join the Imperial Guard? You're different. You're still a member of temple. Zhang Wei looked back at the row of side halls with some reluctance and said, I have left temple forever and will be a member of the Imperial Guard from now on, sigh. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder. No problem, you and I will always be friends. You're welcome to visit temple anytime. Zhang Wei nodded his head. Then I'm leaving. All right, we might meet again when we have time. That's right, I'm leaving. Zhang Wei led his horse and quietly left. Looking at his back, he seemed a little lonely. Lin Muyu tied up the horse, carried the prairie fire sword and went straight to the main hall of the Divine Temple. She saw Guyang from afar on the waterside pavilion corridor, smiled and said, Good afternoon, Deacon Guyang. You is back? Guyang said with a smile. The great deacon was right. You will definitely return to the Holy Temple again. Come, I will take you to him. All right. Inside the Grand Hall, Lei Hong placed his hand on the lion's head on the Grand Deacon's seat. His eyes shined as he smiled. You, quickly tell your grandfather about your experiences in Sky Split Tower. Lin Muyu respectfully recounted everything that happened in Sky Split Tower. She did not mention the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, but Lei Hong and Guyang were still dumbfounded. After a while, Guyang sighed. I didn't expect Qin Hong to still be alive in Sky Split Tower. He should be hundreds of years old. Lei Hong narrowed his eyes and said, He has not stepped into the divine realm, so he did not obtain the power of immortality. Living like this is just a struggle at death's door. If it were me, I would rather die than make such a despicable deal with a demon from purgatory. Guyang smiled. It's great that you can come back alive. Oh right, you should have some matters to attend to in the Divine Temple, right? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded, then adjusted the armor on her shoulder. She smiled and said, This Eagle Guard armor is really uncomfortable to wear, so I still want to ask Grandpa Lei Hong for a few sets of Holy Sanctum armor. I wonder if I still have the custom-made armor. The last set has already been melted when I transmigrated to the realm. Lei Hong could not help but smile. So that's why? Well, I've already prepared it for you. Men, bring and use Divine Temple Gold Star Sparring Master Battle Armor. The door opened and 2 Divine Temple guards walked in, each holding a set of Divine Temple Battle Armor. The Gold Star Sparring Master insignia on the chest of the armor shone brightly. Lei Hong smiled. I ordered someone to make this armor. It's made of millennium dark steel and embedded with buoyancy gems. It can reduce the pressure you have to bear when wearing it. Quickly try it on. Lin Muyu excitedly took out a set of armor and went into the inner hall to change. Immediately she was full of energy again, and there were a total of 8 black gems embedded around the armor. These were the buoyancy gems that Lei Hong mentioned. The entire set of armor weighed at least 100 pounds, but when wearing it, it did not seem to weigh more than 50 pounds. This set of armor was indeed a treasure. He was overjoyed and hurriedly cupped his fists. "Thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong, I really like this set of armor." "As long as you like it." Lei Hong lightly stroked his white beard and said proudly, "This is made by our Divine Temple's skilled craftsmen, it's famous." "Oh right, didn't you apply to become an Eagle Guard? When are you going to the Eagle's Nest?" "I'll go in the afternoon." "Okay then Grandpa will not keep you. Every Eagle Guard mission is risky, you have to be careful." "Yes, then Grandpa will go." Guyang sent him out and sighed as he walked. Now that you've left, Zhang Wei has also left. Now, our Divine Temple has once again returned to that state of withering talents. It seems that in the entire Divine Temple's younger generation, only young Prince Qin Yen looks decent. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Young Prince Qin Yen is naturally intelligent, and is a talent that can be molded. With proper nurturing he can become a top-notch expert. Yes, in any case when you have time you should come back to the Divine Temple to take a look. And okay Grandpa Guyang. After that he made a trip to the spiritual medicine department, and after bidding farewell to Chu Yao he went to the Eagle's Nest. The so-called Eagle's Nest was actually a facility set up outside of Lanyan City. It had 2 main functions. One was to directly provide the Empire's Zetian Palace with some important intelligence, and the second was to send experts into the deep mountains to hunt high-level spirit beasts, to provide the Zetian Palace with rare beast spirit stones, meat, etc. Every autumn the Eagle's Nest would be very busy, preparing food for the winter. After leaving the city he galloped along the small path for a few li, and from afar he could see a camp built on a mountain ridge adjacent to Lanyan City. It was the Eagle's Nest. The Eagle's Nest was a newly built department, and belonged to the Imperial Army. The camp was very simple, and the Central Army was built from a mountain deity temple. The rest of the camps were all tents, and some of the more simple ones were built with grass and wood. It was no wonder that Feng Jixing and Qin Lei said that the Eagle Guards lived a tough life. There were not many soldiers stationed at the Eagle's Nest, and there were less than 200 of them, and among them 110 were Lin Muyu's subordinates. They galloped along the mountain path and not long after, Wei Chou came up to welcome them. He gave a straight Empire's military salute and said, "General, the commander is already waiting for you in the Central Army. Come quickly. Lead the way." "Yes." They galloped all the way into the Eagle's Nest. Lin Muyu led the way, and when she looked down she realized that the place was very steep. The camp was built on the cliff, and it looked like a bird's nest at the top of a tree. It was no wonder that this organization was called the Eagle's Nest. There were 7 centurions in the Eagle's Nest, and one of them was the commander of the Eagle's Nest. Lin Muyu was one of the 7 centurions, and the commander was a man called Meng Fong. It was said that Meng Fong's ancestor was a famous general, but after a few thousand years he was no longer known. A mere commander of 1,000-men commander, how could he be considered a famous general? After entering the central tent, Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Lin Muyu pays her respects to the commander." Meng Fong was a man around 40 years old with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He laughed and stood up saying, "Lord Lin Muyu is finally here. Hurry up and take a seat, your arrival is like a timely rain." "What do you mean?" Lin Muyu asked after sitting down. Meng Fong muttered to himself with some distress and said, "Half a month ago the Zetian Palace gave us a winter mission. We need 2 fire spirit stones over 4,000 years old, 1 rock spirit stone over 5,000 years old, 1 light spirit stone over 5,000 years old, 20 cloud deer over 1,000 years old, 100 swift wolf pelts over 500 years old, 10 fire fox pelts over 1,000 years old, and a wild boar over 1,000 kilograms. They said that it was for the priests at the end of the year ceremony. Lin Muyu was a little dizzy from listening to this and said with a smile, "That's a lot of missions, how many have we completed?" Meng Fong coughed and smiled a little awkwardly. "Out of the 7 centurions, 4 have entered the Cangnan province to carry out a reconnaissance mission. Of the remaining 2, 1 was seriously injured in the battle to kill a 6,000-year-old rock goat, and the other is carrying out a mission to kill a swift wolf. So, the only person I can use now is you." "Then when do I set off?" The sooner the better. Meng Fang looked in the direction of Lanyan City and said, "Actually, I won't hide it from you. The 2 fire spirit stones are prepared for Princess Shi, the 5,000-year-old rock spirit stone is prepared for young Prince Qin Yen, and the 5,000-year-old light spirit stone is prepared for Her Highness Yin. I know that General Lin actually knows all of them, so you are the most suitable person to carry out this mission." As he said this, Meng Fang coughed and said, "To be honest, among the generals of the Eagle's Nest, your strength is the strongest. If I send someone else to hunt a spirit beast over 5,000 years old, I'm very worried that they won't be able to protect themselves." Got it. Lin Muyu stood up, cupped her fists and said with a smile, "Commander, how many people do you intend to give me?" 50 people, including 10 Imperial Guards with Earthrealm strength. What do you think? Alright, thank you. You're welcome. I wish General Lin victory. After leaving the central tent, Wei Chou frowned and said, "General, the commander is obviously bullying us new Eagle Guards. He actually gave us the entire winter hunting mission. I clearly saw many Imperial Guards playing chess, hunting and so on in the camp. Why did he make us do such dangerous and hard work? How despicable." Lin Muyu shushed him and said with a smile, "Lower your voice, just treat it as the most capable people doing more work. Go and select the elite troops, we will set off in the evening and enter the dragon-seeking forest through the night. Bring enough supplies, just treat it as self-training." Yes. Chapter 123. War Horses Neighed. On the empty ground of the Eagle's Nest camp, 50 soldiers were ready to set off. They were all cavalrymen and they even prepared a trailer. This trailer was used to transport a 1,000 kilograms wild boar. Because the wild boar was used by the priests, it had to be kept intact. Without a trailer, it would be impossible to transport it. After all, even Hercules would not be able to move such a heavy wild boar. "My lady, we are ready." Wei Chou held his sword and reported solemnly. "Let's go." Lin Muyu did not stop. She turned her horse around and slowly led the group out of the camp. However, at this moment, a group of people appeared on the side of the road. They seemed to have just climbed up from the foot of the mountain. The person leading the group was dressed in the battle robes of the royal guards. He was rather handsome, but there was a strong sense of arrogance in between his brows. He did not give in to Lin Muyu's group at all as he led his men on the mountain road. "Who is this?" Lin Muyu asked in a low voice. Wei Chou frowned and said, "Gong Sun has the strength of a level 60 heavenly venerable. He is one of the 9 people who have stepped into the heavenly realm out of the 200 royal guards. Because he is from the divine marquis residence, he is very arrogant. This person has always been arrogant and domineering in the royal guards. My lord, we should avoid him if we can." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Stop, let them go first." Yes. The group of people stopped their horses. At this moment, Gong Sun pulled the reins and urged his horse forward. He looked arrogant and his eyes fell on Lin Muyu. He could not help but laugh and said, "Who would have thought that there would be a spring for the Green Gourd? Even the 10th grade Green Gourd martial spirit can become a royal guard. Haha, this is the biggest joke in the world. Lin Muyu, what is your mission this time?" Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and said, "To hunt all kinds of spirit beasts above 5,000 years old." Gong Sun could not help but laugh. "You mobs want to hunt spirit beasts above 5,000 years old? Do you know how powerful a 5,000-year-old spirit beast is? Haha, don't all die in the dragon-seeking forest. Our Eagle's Nest can't afford to lose so much face. Yo, brother Wei Chou is in the team too, hee. Gong Sun slowly urged his horse to come to Wei Chou's side, and his eyes were filled with disdain as he said, "I heard that your mother used to be a camp concubine. It's not easy for you, the son of a camp concubine, to be able to become a royal guard. You better not die outside, or else when that spiritual beast eats you, it won't even know whose bastard child it is, ha." Clang. Lin Muyu's prairie flame sword had already been unsheathed, and with a flash of lightning, it was already pressed against Gong Sun's throat. "Lin Muyu, what are you trying to do?" Gong Sun was so frightened that he didn't dare to move. Lin Muyu smiled and said coldly, "You can insult me, but you can't insult my subordinates. Remember this." The long sword slowly moved away. Gong Sun was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. He and Lin Muyu were both at the first heaven of the heaven state, but he was threatened by the other party's sneak attack. Moreover, it was in front of a group of subordinates, so he didn't feel ashamed and said, "Aren't you too arrogant? Do you think that you can hunt a spiritual beast that is over 5,000 years old with just a few people? Let me tell you, among the 5,000-year-old spiritual beasts, There are only flying feather beasts, spirit light pythons and golden scaled beasts. The flying feather beasts and spirit light pythons have already started hibernating before the snow falls. Golden scaled beasts are very rare. Even if you find one, you guys are definitely not its match. I'll see how you guys die. As he spoke, Gong Sun glared at Wei Chou and said, "Bastard, don't think that you found a backer. Just you wait." Wei Chou gritted his teeth, but he still endured and didn't flare up. After all, there was a huge disparity in strength and the other party was of noble birth while he was just a commoner. Just as Gong Sun said, Wei Chou was the son of Ing Ji and didn't know who his father was. His mother died over 10 years ago, so he couldn't even be considered a commoner. Lin Muyu wasn't willing to endure and raised her eyebrows and said, "Gong Sun, if we hunt a 5,000-year-old golden-scaled beast and bring it back, then what? Do you dare to bet with us?" Gong Sun's anger surged and he said, "All right, you say, how do we bet?" Lin Muyu said, "Before the winter sacrifice ceremony, if we can hunt a 5,000-year-old golden-scaled beast, you kneel down to Wei Chou and apologize in public. If we can't do it, I will kneel down to you and apologize in public. Do you dare to bet?" "Why wouldn't I dare to bet?" Gong Sun raised his palm and said loudly, "Everyone listen up, if Lin Muyu is able to hunt a golden-scaled beast that is over 5,000 years old, I, Gong Sun, am willing to kneel down and apologize to Wei Chou. But if they are unable to hunt it, Lin Muyu will kneel down and apologize to me, Gong Sun, in front of everyone." Everyone raised their weapons and cheered. This group of people's ability to jeer was indeed not simple. The two teams passed by each other and the farce was temporarily stopped. But Lin Muyu knew that this matter was far from over. The Divine Marquis Residence's hostility towards her was getting stronger, and there were actually people from the Divine Marquis Residence in the Imperial Guards. This Shi Yifan was too omnipotent. Was this the rhythm of having students all over the world? Wei Chou urged his horse to follow Lin Muyu and said in a low voice, "Thank you, sir. What are you thanking me for? You're still so polite with me." He smiled lightly. "Sir." Wei Chou wanted to say something but stopped. After a few seconds he said, "I am the son of Ing Ji, even my name is my mother's surname. Will you look down on me?" Lin Muyu suddenly stopped her horse and with a serious expression she said, "Don't say such things in the future. I don't care what your background is, you are my companion and also my brother. I will not tolerate anyone bullying you in front of me, and I will never look down on you. That's all. Is there anything else you want to ask?" "No. No more? Then let's go quickly, we must hunt down the golden-scaled beast before the winter sacrifice ceremony. This is not a boast, if we really can't find the golden-scaled beast, I will have to kneel down to that grandson and apologize. You also don't want to see me kneel down to that kind of person and apologize, right?" Wei Chou was relieved and a smile emerged on his face. He urged his horse to catch up and said, "No, we will definitely find the golden-scaled beast." "Yes." When night fell, the team arrived at the edge of the dragon-seeking forest. In the distance, more than 10 Imperial Guards were patrolling. The one in the lead, holding a long spear, galloped over on his horse and said, "Who is it?" Wei Chou set up a torch and Lin Muyu took out his waist token, saying, "Eagle Guard Lin Muyu, under orders to enter the dragon-seeking forest to hunt the required spirit beasts." This Imperial Guard general was a centurion, and his rank was originally higher than Lin Muyu's, but once he heard that he was an Imperial Guard, he immediately showed a respectful expression and said, "Sir, you must be careful entering the dragon-seeking forest so late at night. The swift wolves are most active at night, and we have already hunted down many swift wolves on the outskirts to prevent them from coming down the mountain and harming the people of the small village." "Yes, thank you for the reminder." Lin Muyu urged his horse past, and led the 50 elites behind him into the dragon-seeking forest. This forest was actually protected, and ordinary hunters and cultivators were not qualified to enter the dragon-seeking forest at all. Of course, the forest was too big and there were not that many soldiers to protect it, so they only set up a checkpoint on the side adjacent to the imperial capital. They did not encounter any obstacles along the way, and a few swift wolves appeared, but they were all easily taken care of by a few imperial guards in less than 400 years. At midnight, Lin Muyu gave the order to set up camp. They set up camp in a steep terrain. As the highest-ranking general of this small team, Lin Muyu was arranged to be in a cave, but he did not mind. He ate something early and prepared to rest. Leaning against the stone wall, he slowly fell asleep. The spirit pulse technique naturally extended out and he felt the pulse of the surrounding earth, air, and energy. The Imperial Guards had already entered a deep sleep, and only the 7 Imperial Guards on night patrol had a stronger aura fluctuation. It seemed that after nearly a month of training in the Tongtian Tower, their souls had become even stronger. On top of that, Lin Muyu did not feel tired even after using the third luminescence twice in a row. He could not help but feel excited. It seemed like he should be eyeing the 7 luminescence demon monarch's 4th luminescence. After all, after stepping into the heaven realm, it was impossible for him to advance at the same speed as before. In fact, Lin Muyu had been stuck at level 60 for a long time, but this kind of thing could not be rushed and had to be done slowly. As for his true combat strength, it was still increasing, especially after obtaining the 3rd luminaries. His combat strength was on a completely different level from before. He slowly retracted his spiritual sense and entered his E-High. Hua! He materialized above the E-High, holding the burning prairie sword, his temple battle robe fluttering in the wind. A few hundred meters below him was the endless water of the E-High. He raised his palm, and an invisible force forcefully separated the seawater. Here Lin Muyu's strength could be infinitely increased. In other words, he was a god here. He leaped into the depths of the E-High, and after flying for a long time, he finally saw a person sitting quietly in the chaotic space. It was the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor. What, you're here to see me again? The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor did not even need to raise his head to know who it was. Other than this damn brat, it could not be anyone else. Lin Muyu smiled. Demon Emperor, long time no see. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor heard this and knew that it was not a good thing. He raised his head and said, "What do you want this time? Why don't you give me the power of the 4th Luminaries?" Lin Muyu asked in a negotiating tone. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor gritted his teeth. "You bastard, you still want this Emperor's 7 Luminaries Shen energy? You're courting death." It was another backlash in his soul form. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's body suddenly expanded. His palms were densely covered with stars, and he directly used the 7 Luminaries star transformation. But this time, the strength of Lin Muyu's soul couldn't be compared to the previous time. With a wung sound, the refining cauldron enveloped the Demon Emperor. The 5th layer of flames, hellfire fell, burning the soul of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor until it howled miserably. The power of the 7 Luminaries star transformation was also annihilated. "Are you giving it to me?" he asked. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor would rather die than surrender. "I'd rather die than surrender." "Then I'll take it myself." Under the tempering of the hellfire, the soul of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor slowly emitted some energy and was completely refined by the refining cauldron. Suddenly, a group of ghosts roared and rushed inside the refining cauldron. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised her palm. An invisible hand quickly grabbed these ghosts and refined them. Instantly, a powerful force filled her body. She had obtained a new ability, 4 Luminaries Demon God's Cry. Phew! Slowly opening her eyes, Lin Muyu raised her right palm and slowly exerted force. Immediately, a demon god constellation condensed in her palm. It was the sound of the 4 Luminaries Demon God's Cry. However, her blood also felt like it was swelling and her head was about to split open. As expected, her soul wasn't strong enough to control the overbearing power of the 4 Luminaries Demon God's Cry. But this was enough. Her soul would become stronger and stronger. Now that she had the 4th Luminaries, she could use it when her soul was strong enough. Chapter 124. The moonlight shone on the imperial capital's pavilion of raindrops, and a soothing melody could be heard from the pavilion. The melody rose and fell as though it was narrating a young lady's state of mind. Chu Huayin stood in front of the curtain in a daze, as though he was intoxicated by the melody. He recalled all the hardships he had experienced over the years, and he could not help but feel emotional. It was as though the melody could read his mind and caress the softest part of his heart. Today all his pursuits seemed to have changed. His grandfather was killed and Chu Yao came to the capital. Everything was like a dream. What was he pursuing? The pinnacle of martial arts? He sighed softly. Where was the pinnacle of martial arts? Not long after the melody ended, the beaded curtain was slowly lifted, and a maid smiled and said, "Sir Chu Huayin, my lady invites you in for a chat." Chu Huayin was flattered and nodded. "Yes." Another royal guard patted his shoulder and smiled. Go. It's your fortune that Lady Jinxiang is willing to meet you. To be honest, I'm so envious of you." Chu Huayin smiled awkwardly and stepped into the inner courtyard. He saw a beautiful young girl sitting next to a zither. Her beautiful eyes were staring at him. This was none other than the daughter of the deity Marquis, Zheng Yifan, Zheng Xiang. Sir Chu, please take a seat. Xinxiang smiled and ordered, prepare some tea for Sir Chu. Yes. The maid walked over slowly and poured a cup of tea for Chu Huayin. Sir Chu, what do you think of the song I played? Xinxiang asked with a faint smile. Chu Huayin was a little absent-minded and hurriedly said, this song should only be heard in the heavens. Lady Xinxiang, how do you know me? I'm just a small royal guard. Xinxiang laughed and said, Sir Chu, do you remember the sword duel tournament 3 years ago? You used the star-plucking finger to consecutively defeat more than 10 experts, but ultimately lost to Feng Jixing's wind-walking saber technique. What a pity. At that time, this little girl was at the side of the stage, and personally witnessed Lord Chu's unparalleled talent. Chu Huayin couldn't help but blush. That was just a small trick. It's nothing compared to Miss Xinxiang's zither music. Cheng Xiang gently smiled. Among the outstanding talents of the imperial capital, Feng Jixing and Qin Lei's martial arts can be said to be the best, but they are not proficient in music. Only Lord Chu is a true all-rounder. Today I have invited Lord Chu here so that you can give me some pointers on my zither melody. I don't dare. Chu Huaijin cupped his fists in fear and said, I don't dare to guide Miss with my shallow music. I've lived in the capital for so many years, and Miss Xinxiang's music can be considered the best. Only Her Highness Yin's Song of Lanyan can compete with it. Hee, it's Xiaoyin. Xinxiang covered her mouth and chuckled. It's no wonder that it's her. Xiaoyin is exceptionally intelligent and has excellent comprehension skills. Her attainments in music are definitely above mine. Alright, Official Chu, I heard that your younger sister Chu Yao is already in the capital? Yes. Chu Huaimian said, Miss, why are you asking about Yao? Zhen Xiang's gaze was somewhat gloomy. Lord Chu should also understand that the conflict between the Divine Marquis residence and the Imperial Guard is becoming more and more intense. Father and brother are extremely angry because of this every day. This time, I have invited you here in order to resolve the conflict between the Divine Marquis residence, the Imperial Guard and the Divine Temple. Chu Huaijin's heart trembled. May I ask what Miss is thinking? Xinxiang sighed faintly and looked deeply at Chu Huaijin with her beautiful eyes. I won't hide it from you. After we parted at the sword competition 3 years ago, I still can't forget you. Perhaps you don't even know of my existence, but I have you in my heart. These few days, Father has been forcing me to marry the military police commander, Xiang Yu. Xinxiang knows that Xiang Yu is arrogant and ruthless. If Lord Chu also has me in his heart, I hope that Lord... As she spoke, Xinxiang's face turned red. She stood up and bowed like a virtuous lady. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. I hope that Lord Chu can come to the Divine Marquis residence to propose marriage. I am willing to spend the rest of my life with you. Chu Huaijin's body trembled. Joy and shock mixed together. After a while he cupped his fists and said, Chu Huaijin is just a commoner. I'm afraid that his status is not good enough for Miss. Xinxiang was stunned. She sat down and said with a desolate look on her face, Since Lord Chu doesn't allow it, I'll forget about it. The servant beside her looked indignant and said, Lord Chu, my Miss has poured her heart out to you. Why are you so heartless? Don't you have Miss in your heart at all? My Miss, in terms of appearance and talent, she is one of the few in Lanyan City. I remember that a year ago my Miss was ranked 3rd in the ranking of beauties in Lanyan City. Chuzhe, do you know that 2 years ago my Miss went to the Emperor's hunting expedition from afar just to take a look at you? In the end you didn't go. She stood in the first snow of Lanyan City for 8 hours. A year ago, my Miss still insisted on going to the Imperial Guard's martial arts competition to select new talents. This time she saw you but you didn't take a look at her. My Miss is so devoted to you, but why is my lord so heartless? Chu Huaijin was also anxious. In fact, he had already fallen in love with Xinxiang's music. However, this had happened so suddenly that he wasn't mentally prepared at all. It's not that Chu Huaijin doesn't have Miss in his heart, it's just that... Chu Huaijin frowned and muttered to himself, Lin Muyu is my brother. He and the young Marquis are enemies. If I go to the Divine Marquis residence to propose marriage now, I'm afraid it won't be appropriate. Chu Huaijin doesn't want to betray Miss, but he also doesn't want to betray Lin Muyu's brotherhood. His words made Xinxiang blush. After a long time, she raised her face and smiled. There's no rush to propose marriage. It's fine as long as Lord Chu has me in his heart. Chu Huaijin cupped his fists and said, I hope Miss won't blame me for being rude. Give me a little more time, I won't disappoint you. Xinxiang smiled sweetly, but she was so shy that her face was flushed. She wanted to look at Chu Huayin, but she didn't dare to. She lowered her head and stammered for a while before saying, Then can Lord Chu come again tomorrow? Chu Huaijin was stunned. Miss, I'm on duty tomorrow. When will Lord Chu be free? The day after tomorrow? Then let's meet here the day after tomorrow. What does Lord Chu think? Chu Huaijin blushed and said awkwardly, This? Chu Huaijin is a commoner. His salary as a royal guard is only average. Why don't we meet at a cheaper place next time? I'm afraid it'll be unfair to Mississippi. Xinxiang giggled and looked at him deeply. It's not unfair at all. Wherever you are, it's a wonderful place. Chu Huaijin will return to Zetian Palace. We can't delay for too long. Xinxiang will send you off. In the night, Chu Huaijin and Xinxiang walked out of the pavilion of raindrops side by side. They didn't know that a pair of eyes was staring at them from the pavilion. It was a skinny man around 30 years old. His face was filled with jealousy and hatred. Chu Huaijin, you bastard. How dare you try to get your hands on my Mississippi? If the divine Marquis finds out, he'll make you wish you were dead. Xinxiang and Chu Huaijin naturally didn't know that danger was approaching. They were still immersed in the joy of their first love. This day was very important to both of them. The happiest thing in the world was knowing that the person you love also loves you. The cries of wild pheasants broke the silence of the night. A ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds. The sky was bright. Lin Muyu woke up from her sleep. She had a good sleep. She had replenished all the energy she had lost in the Tower of Babel. She sat up and waved her arms. She felt that her body was full of battle energy. Her body had reached its peak. It was just enough for her to put her strength to good use in the upcoming Eagle Guard mission. Sir, you're awake? Wei Chou smiled respectfully from afar. The Spiritual Fire Division has prepared breakfast. We can continue our journey after we finish eating. All right. The Spiritual Fire Division was actually the name of the Empire's army's kitchen. Just sounded nicer. In the team of 50 people led by Lin Muyu, 5 of them were responsible for cooking. Hence, there were only 5 Spiritual Fire Division members in this team. However, it was still very important. After all, food was very important when the army was on the move. Breakfast was not bad. There were 2 pieces of army biscuits and a bowl of meat soup. The meat soup was made from the meat of the swift wolves they killed yesterday. The meat tasted a little fishy, but it was already good enough to have a bite of meat to eat. Lin Muyu finished her breakfast in a few bites. She clapped her hands and said, Wei Chou, bring the map of the dragon-seeking forest over. Yes, sir. She opened the map. This was a royal map. Every team in the Eagle Guard had one. The details of the map were very detailed. Lin Muyu took out the mission list and smiled. I really don't know where to start. Wei Chou also smiled. He pointed at the map and said, The autumn leaves have withered. The fire-type spirit beasts will start hibernating in the next few days. The autumn wind is biting cold. I think winter will come very early this year. Let's go to the southeast side of the dragon-seeking forest to look for fire-type spirit beasts. There's no rush for the rest. Where are the fire-type spirit beasts mainly concentrated? The Deadwood Stone Forest. That's good. Wei Chou, you lead the way. Yes, sir. After breakfast, everyone got on their horses and set off after extinguishing the bonfire. The spirit beasts they met along the way were not very strong. The strongest one was no more than 2,000 years old. Therefore, Wei Chou and the other Imperial Guards were in charge of taking care of them. As for the Imperial Guards, most of them were in the human realm. Their mission was basically to carry things and shoot arrows from afar. When they really met a strong spirit beast, they could not directly participate in the battle because it was too easy to be killed. Lin Muyu had already made up her mind to stay in the Eagle Nest camp. Therefore, these people would be her bodyguards in the future. She could not let them die so easily. Otherwise, she would be a failure as a centurion. In the middle of the night, a 2,400-year-old wild bear ambushed the hunting party, but Lin Muyu pierced through its heart with her pear blossom spear. With just one strike, she killed a 2,400-year-old spirit beast. Everyone was immediately convinced, and the unity of the whole group naturally became stronger. Marching, resting, and cultivating. This had completely become Lin Muyu's life here. Unknowingly, 3 days had passed. The team finally arrived at a very barren forest. It was the Deadwood Stone Forest. There were burn marks everywhere. There were many fire-type spirit beasts living here. It was also a good place to hunt 4,000+ years old fire-type spirit beasts. Chapter 125. It was late at night and the 50 Eagle Guards set up camp in the forest. Everything was the same as before. "My lord." Wei Chou leapt over from afar with his sword in hand. "I found something over there. Would you like to take a look?" Lin Muyu picked up his pear blossom spear and walked over with him. A strong stench wafted into his nostrils. In this chaotic world, a corpse was lying there. It was wearing black light armor and had a double sword insignia on its arm. "It's someone from the Hall of Chivalry. This is their insignia." Wei Chou frowned. Why would he come so deep into the dragon-seeking forest alone? He's courting death. "My lord, please take a look at what killed him." Lin Muyu's gaze swept across the corpse. The corpse's entire head had been smashed and there were claw marks on its chest. Its heart had been completely devoured. The corpse had been there for a few days and had already begun to rot. He frowned. "It's a bloodthirsty tiger." "Bloodthirsty tiger?" Wei Chou was slightly stunned. Yes, bloodthirsty tigers love to smash their enemies' heads with their claws and devour their prey's hearts. Moreover, there are burn marks on this corpse. It's most likely a bloodthirsty tiger. As he spoke, Lin Muyu rubbed his nose. "Bury this corpse and rest as usual. Tomorrow prepare to hunt the bloodthirsty tiger. It must be in this area." "Yes, my lord." The night passed. When the sun rose again, another day had arrived. 10 people were left behind to look after the horses while the remaining 40 were led by Lin Muyu into the nearby forest. As they walked, Wei Chou asked, "My lord, how do you determine where the bloodthirsty tiger is?" "There's no need to determine. Just lure it out of the cave." "How?" Wei Chou was stunned. Lin Muyu faintly smiled as he pulled out a demonic noise blade from his waist and lightly wiped it across his arm. Fresh blood immediately flowed out as he said with a smile, "The bloodthirsty tiger is bloodthirsty, but it loves the blood of living people the most. Its sense of smell is extremely sensitive, and as long as a living person bleeds, it will be able to smell it within 10 miles. "My lord." Wei Chou's gaze was sharp. "If you need human blood, why don't you use our blood? Sir's blood is so precious. How can you use it for such a thing?" "It's okay, I'm used to it." Lin Muyu recalled the first time she and Chu Yao were used as bait. At that time she almost bled to death. Now that she thought about it, she really felt that things remained the same but people had changed. The roar of a fierce tiger could be faintly heard from afar. "Line up and prepare for battle." Lin Muyu gripped her sword and quickly applied some ointment on her wound to stop the bleeding. The bleeding had attracted the bloodthirsty tiger in less than 20 minutes. It seemed that the bloodthirsty tiger's residence was very close. The surrounding temperature slowly rose. The bloodthirsty tiger was getting closer and closer. Even the spirit pulse technique had detected the location of the bloodthirsty tiger's energy fluctuations. Lin Muyu looked back and said, "Over there, don't do anything. Let me go first. I'll call for you when I need help." Everyone nodded in agreement. The Royal Army soldiers all had nervous looks on their faces. Many of them had never seen a bloodthirsty tiger before, much less a 1,000-year-old bloodthirsty tiger. To them, this ferocious beast was no less terrifying than the Grim Reaper. With the sound of broken branches, a huge creature slowly appeared in the forest. Lin Muyu was also stunned when she saw it. This bloodthirsty tiger was much bigger than the 4,000-year-old bloodthirsty tiger in the Seven Stars Forest. Its fur was colorful, and there were a total of 5 golden and 7 silver patterns on its forehead. This was a 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger. "Damn, what kind of luck is this?" he cursed in his heart. Although he had already stepped into the first sky of the heavenly realm, it was still a bit difficult for him to fight a 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger alone. He raised his hand and drank the stone skin potion, then a level 5 divine strength potion. In an instant, the strength in his arms seemed to have increased by 10%. However, this kind of low-level potion did not have much effect on him. It was just icing on the cake. This was also why Lei Hong, Chu Chu, and the other saints did not use any potions. The stronger the user, the less effective the potion would be. This was because the strong could only become strong by digging out their own potential, and potions were also used to dig out their potential. This was common sense. "My lady, be careful. It's a 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger," Wei Chou shouted from afar. He was almost suffocating. Lin Muyu nodded. "Don't do anything until I say so. Don't get close to the bloodthirsty tiger. Just shoot it with your arrows." "Yes." "Roar." The proud bloodthirsty tiger let out another long roar. One could imagine that it had rarely met a worthy opponent here for many years, or else it would not have such a king's aura. It leaped and swung its claws at Lin Muyu's head. As expected, it wanted to blow up her head again. Unfortunately, the current Lin Muyu was no longer the same as before. She was faster and stronger. She suddenly lowered her body and dodged the bloodthirsty tiger's attack. At the same time, she rolled away and slashed the burning prairie sword across the bloodthirsty tiger's abdomen. Crack! Surprisingly, the bloodthirsty tiger was enveloped in a layer of blazing stellar energy. It had actually managed to block the burning prairie sword's attack head-on. The bloodthirsty tiger turned around and whipped its tail at Lin Muyu. This time Lin Muyu couldn't dodge it. It was too fast. Lin Muyu raised her arm and used black tortoise shell plus dragon scale wall to protect herself. Bang! The bloodthirsty tiger's tail seemed to have hit a steel shield. The black tortoise shell cracked a little, but it wasn't fatal. Lin Muyu took advantage of the situation and slid to the other side of the bloodthirsty tiger. She opened her right hand and used fire to control her sword while her left hand turned into an iron palm. Demonic energy condensed in her palm and she slammed it at the bloodthirsty tiger's flank. Two luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! Flames flew everywhere. The bloodthirsty tiger was just an animal after all, and it could not withstand the attack of the seven luminaries' profound force. It howled in pain and stumbled back a few steps, the righteous energy around its body beginning to dissipate. Lin Muyu raised her right hand and used Dragon Flame's spiral slash. Her long sword whistled through the air and pierced through the bloodthirsty tiger's abdomen. Blood, fur, and organs immediately fell to the ground. Ah! My lady is mighty. Wei Chou and the others laughed loudly. Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique sensed that the bloodthirsty tiger's spirit energy was rising instead of decreasing. She hurriedly shouted, "Be careful, everyone, get down." The group fell to the ground in unison. The bloodthirsty tiger roared angrily, and flames erupted from the spirit core in its head, spreading in all directions. Bzzz. The walls of the gourd continued to be buffed by the raging flames. Lin Muyu walked towards the bloodthirsty tiger step by step, her blood and chi surging within her body. This 5,700-year-old spirit beast was simply too powerful. It was still alive even after all that. Just as she got closer, the bloodthirsty tiger roared again and slammed its claws into the wall of the gourd. Pung! The mystic tortoise shell shattered, and 3 deep gashes appeared on the dragon scale wall. Lin Muyu's body swayed and she retreated a few steps. A trickle of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. In the end she was still injured. Her strength was not enough to kill a 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger without taking any damage. She opened her palms slightly, and the burning prairie sword, which had been stabbed into the rock, began to tremble and hum. Using the power of the sword of lightning, she pulled it out with a clang, then turned it into a streak of light and stabbed it into the bloodthirsty tiger's body once more. This time, the bloodthirsty tiger's spirit energy was almost completely depleted. Under the spirit pulse technique's detection, the bloodthirsty tiger was already on the verge of death. "Pata," he sat down on a rock behind him and said, "All right, go and cut the bloodthirsty tiger's throat. Be careful not to injure its brain. It would be a pity if you damaged this precious fire-type spirit stone." "Yes, my lady." Wei Chou raised his sword and rushed over, cutting the tiger's head in half. With another 2 slashes, the bloodthirsty tiger's head and tail were separated. This 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger should not have been killed so easily. Unfortunately, it had encountered an expert like Lin Muyu, who possessed the 7 luminaries' profound force. The second luminaries had directly beaten the bloodthirsty tiger into a daze, so it was naturally easier to kill. A few minutes later, Wei Chou walked over with a flaming, bloody spirit stone in his hands. He smiled happily and said, "Sir, we've got the first spirit stone. It's a bloodthirsty tiger's spirit stone of 5,700 years old. It has far exceeded the requirements that the Zetian Palace had set for us. We've exceeded the requirements." "That's good. Wash it. We can't hand it over in such a dirty state." "Yes." After handing the fiery spirit stone to a royal guard to wash, Wei Chou turned to look at the bloodthirsty tiger's carcass, only to find that there was a wild beast spirit circling the tiger's head. He pursed his lips, his eyes filled with ardent hope, and said, "My lady, this wild beast spirit." Lin Muyu looked at him with amusement and said, "I have already stepped into the heaven realm, so I can no longer rely on refining the wild beast spirit to increase my strength. It would be a waste for me to use it. Go, but be careful. You are weaker, so don't be too greedy. You should absorb about 1/3 of this 5,700-year-old beast spirit. Otherwise you might end up in trouble." "Thank you, my lady." Wei Chou was overjoyed. He turned around and summoned his martial soul. It was a 4th-grade beast martial soul, the fire dragon. The fire dragon was an ancient beast, and the fire dragon was a master of flames. Wei Chao's martial soul was very good, and he was a promising talent. There were only a few commoners who could comprehend a 4th-grade martial soul, and this was probably the biggest reason why Wei Chao was chosen to join the royal guard. The ferocious-looking fire dragon coiled around Wei Chao's shoulder and began to devour and refine the bloodthirsty tiger's spirit. This process lasted for a long time. Perhaps it was because he was not strong enough, but after about 2 hours, Wei Chao had only refined about 20% of the bloodthirsty tiger's spirit. His face was covered in sweat and he was starting to run out of energy. By this time Lin Muyu had also recovered from her internal injuries. She stepped forward and gently raised her palm. The artifact refining cauldron descended in the form of energy, quickly grabbing the essence of the bloodthirsty tiger's beast spirit and refining it in less than 3 minutes. Afterwards, she fed it to the fire dragon in the form of pure spiritual energy. A trace of shock flitted across Wei Chao's face. "My lady? Focus on refining it." "Yes." His face was full of gratitude. After a few more minutes, Wei Chao let out a long sigh of relief. He actually spat out scorching flames from his mouth, and the fire dragon on his shoulder let out a hiss. Its body was enshrouded in fiery stellar energy. "My lady." Wei Chao was ecstatic. This general has refined the bloodthirsty tiger's ability. Is that fiery stellar energy?" Lin Muyu pretended not to know. She patted his shoulder and smiled. "Not bad. You're very lucky, kid." "Thank you, my lady." Although Wei Chao didn't know what was going on, he knew that Lin Muyu must have helped him. Otherwise, refining the bloodthirsty tiger's beast spirit would not have been so easy. Chapter 126. On the 6th day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, they finally found a second fire-type spirit beast that was over 4,000 years old. It was a 4,200 years old flaming ironback bear. Roar! The flaming ironback bear stood at the bottom of the cliff and roared, but it did not initiate an attack. It was very smart and could sense that there was a very strong person in this group, Lin Muyu. It could not see through this person's strength. "Master." Wei Chao was eager to give it a try and said, "Let us handle this spirit beast. We can't let you handle it yourself. Otherwise, what's the point of us coming here, right?" Lin Muyu could not help but smile. "Alright, you guys go, I'll hold the line. However, you guys must be careful. You can get hurt but you can't die. If you die, everything will be gone." "Yes, master, don't worry." Wei Chao called for 3 royal guards to attack together. Among them, Wei Chao was the strongest as a battle saint, while the other 3 were battle venerables, and battle venerables respectively. Overall, they could challenge a 4,200 years old spirit beast, but it would be more dangerous. Therefore, 2 of the battle venerables carried their heavy shields and advanced cautiously. Wei Chao and the other battle saint pulled out their swords and summoned their martial souls, ready to fight with their lives at any time. "Go, attack formation." Wei Chao let out a low roar. 2 royal guards carried their shields and rushed forward to cover him. The flaming ironback bear sensed the impending danger and roared furiously as it swatted out with its iron paw. The shield of one of the royal guards was knocked back. That thick and heavy shield actually had a deep impression of the bear's paw. Even the raging flames had swept past the mark, showing signs of melting. However, the ironback bear had also paid a price for this attack. Its shoulder had been heavily slashed by Wei Chao's sword, causing blood to spurt out. The ironback bear began to charge ferociously, directly pouncing on another shield-wielding royal guard to the ground. Brandishing its sharp claws, it continuously smashed the shield 3 or 4 times. The royal guard groaned in pain, already injured by the fierce flames. Lin Muyu quickly moved her palm to the hilt of her sword. The burning prairie sword was ready to be unsheathed at any moment. Wei Chao's heavy sword once again pierced through the iron-backed bear's thick, stony skin, directly piercing into its heart. The other royal guard's sword pierced into the iron-backed bear's mouth, causing blood to splatter out. Good heavens, none of the royal guards were easy to deal with. Their attacks were all too ruthless. However, they had still underestimated the iron-backed bear's vitality. With a furious roar, the iron-backed bear quickly unleashed a wave of raging flames, causing the 3 royal guards to continuously retreat. They were probably all injured, but only Wei Chao still stood in place with his sword in hand. With the fire centipede martial soul protecting him, he used the ability of the fire chi to block the iron-backed bear's raging flames. This skill was indeed rather useful. The iron-backed bear was completely unleashing its vitality to counterattack. After the raging flames had burned the surroundings into ashes, its own strength had also instantly dropped to rock bottom. In a flash, Wei Chou appeared in front of the iron-backed bear. He leaped up and swept his sword horizontally. Crack! The huge bear's head slowly slid down. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly cheer, "Beautiful!" A few minutes later, Wei Chou dug out a fresh fire spirit stone and said with a smile, "Madam, the mission to collect fire spirit stones has been completed. Our performance is not bad, right?" Lin Muyu cast an approving look at him. "The royal guards are indeed dragons among men, heh? Hee, madam is too kind." Wei Chou happily washed the iron-backed bear's spirit stone with the water in his water bag. He wasn't old, perhaps even younger than Lin Muyu. In fact, he was still a very childish fellow. However, as a member of the royal guards and a commoner's background, the pressure in his life was simply too great. The royal guards didn't keep idle people, so he had to improve his strength every day. Otherwise, he might be replaced by someone else one day. A group of royal guards happily skinned the iron-backed bear and took out its meat. After eating the bloodthirsty tiger's meat for several days, their mouths were all very picky. The bloodthirsty tiger's meat was too bitter and not very tasty. On the other hand, although the iron-backed bear's meat was coarse, it was very resistant to hunger. Many people in the army liked to eat bear meat to fill their stomachs, but the iron-backed bear was very rare. The people of the Spirit Fire Division carried bags of bear meat and hung them on the sides of the war horses. Lin Muyu mounted her horse and looked around. She discovered that everything here had withered. There wasn't a trace of greenery in the mountains. In just a few days, the change from autumn to winter had been completed. Just as Wei Chou had said, winter seemed to have come especially early today. Lin Muyu rubbed her hands together and said, "Let's set off quickly. Where's our next destination?" Wei Chou unfurled the map and looked at it. He said, "Rubble Valley, located in the northwest corner of the dragon-seeking forest. There are rocks everywhere, so most of the spirit beasts living there have absorbed a lot of rock attribute spirit energy. We might be able to find a rock attribute spirit beast of sufficient age there. Moreover, if we look north of the Rubble Valley, we will reach the north of the dragon-seeking forest. It is said that a golden-scaled beast has appeared there." "And got it. Let's go." "Yes." Lin Muyu spurred the warhorse forward slowly. At this moment, snowflakes suddenly floated in the air. He looked up in surprise and said, "It's snowing so soon?" Wei Chou said with a smile, "It's definitely going to be a cold winter this year." The snow was getting heavier and heavier. Soon, the ground of the forest was covered with a layer of frost. Lin Muyu was still riding through the mountains. Snowflakes fell on the shoulder armor of his pure white temple battle robe and did not melt for a long time. The weather was getting colder and colder, causing him to shiver uncontrollably. He turned to look in the direction of Lanyan City. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat and he couldn't help but say, "I wonder if it's snowing in Lanyan City?" His longing seemed to be able to pass through thousands of miles of snow to reach his beloved. Wei Chou exhaled hot air and laughed as he said something that spoiled the mood. "Hey, I don't know if it's snowing in Lanyan City. I only know that it's snowing here. It's the season to defecate, melt snow and cook rice." Lin Muyu, if it weren't for her good temper, she would have ordered him to be executed on the spot. Thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were covered in snow. It was snowing heavily in Lanyan City. Large flakes of snow fell on the courtyards and waterside pavilions. The lake water had already frozen into ice. The outside of the Phoenix Perching Hall was already covered in white. The maids carried heaters back and forth while the imperial guards in white robes patrolled silently with their hands on the hilts of their swords. There were a total of 70 dragon guards in the Zetian Palace, and 20 of them were assigned to the Phoenix Perching Hall alone. It was clear how much importance Qin Jin placed on the little princess. The main doors of the Phoenix Perching Hall were open. The cold wind blew in continuously, causing the flames in the heaters to sway. A delicious and tender deer leg was being roasted on top of the heaters. An attendant was carefully shaking the venison and sprinkling seasonings on it. Meanwhile, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were sitting on either side of the heaters. The two of them looked at the falling snow together, as if their minds were no longer on the delicious food in front of them. "I wonder if it's snowing in the dragon-seeking forest?" Qin Yin suddenly said. Tang Xiaoxi had wanted to say this a long time ago, but she was too embarrassed to say it. Hearing Qin Yin's words, she pouted and said, "I wonder if Mu brought a coat." Qin Yin giggled. I wonder if Yu knows that both of us are thinking about him. Tang Xiaoxi also laughed. Xiaoyin, do you like Mu too? Yes. Qinyin blushed. But I can't say that it's that kind of like. What about you, Xiaoxi? Tang Xiaoxi blinked and continued to look at the sea of snow outside. I actually don't know what is like or what is love. I just feel that when Mu is by my side I am very happy. When he speaks I smile. No matter what he does I feel that he seems to glow. Xiaoyin, does this count as liking? Qinyin Xue moved her red lips and said, I guess so. What about you? Tang Xiaoxi sat closer and put her palm on Qinyin's leg for warmth. She smiled and said, how does Xiaoyin like Mu? Qinyin was startled. A trace of sadness flashed through her eyes. She lowered her head and said, so what if I like him or not? I am the heir of the family. Who I will marry is already decided by the heavens. I have no right to talk about this. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her with some loneliness. She suddenly smiled and said, AI, poor thing. Qinyin was amused by her and suddenly burst out laughing. Xiaoxi, you are too mischievous. I am not. The attendant at the side looked at the two peerless beauties talking about their best friend. However, he remained calm and did not act impulsively. He was calm because he knew that these two beauties were of noble status and were not people he could associate with. He was not impulsive because his lower body was no longer masculine. It had long been cut off, so he could not act impulsively at all. However, the servant still said, Your Highness, Princess, this deer leg is already roasted. The General Lin Muyu you mentioned is now a centurion of the Eagle Guards. I heard that he was ordered to lead 50 men into the dragon-seeking forest to hunt for spiritual beasts, as well as the precious ingredients that the Zetian Palace needs for the winter. Perhaps the deer leg you ate was hunted by him? So, don't waste the good times. Quickly eat more. Qinyin glanced at the attendant and suddenly felt that this eunuch was quite good at chatting. In an instant she felt that this deer leg was glowing. She instantly blushed. Could this be what Tang Xiaoxi meant when she said that he would glow when he liked someone? As they ate the delicious roasted venison and drank the warm grape wine, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly looked up and said, Oh right, Xiaoyin, how long has it been since you went to Sister Xinxiang to learn the Guqin? It has been a long time. Qinyin said, Ever since the relationship between the Divine Cathedral and the Divine Marquis residence became tense, Sister Xinxiang has not entered the palace, so I have not had the chance to learn from her. I am afraid that even if you could meet her, she would not have the time to learn from you. Why? Qinyin's beautiful eyes widened. Tang Xiaoxi giggled. Because Sister Xinxiang is now deeply in love with Lord Chu Huayin? Ah? Qinyin opened her small mouth and smiled. Lord Chu Huayin? Isn't that Yu Huayin's sworn brother? Yes. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said, That is why I did not go to look for her. How can I disturb her happiness, right? Qinyin giggled. That is true, but I do not know when Yu Huayin will return. Yes. Chapter 127. On the 11th day of entering the dragon-seeking forest, the team slowly entered the Valley of Rubble. The snow was still falling as if it would never end. Rustle, rustle. Lin Muyu brushed the snow off her shoulders and pulled on the reins to speed up the warhorse. Wei Chou followed closely and said, My lord, we must be careful. The snow has covered everything in the mountain, and many stone attribute spirit beasts are also buried under the snow. If we're not careful we might step into a trap. Got it? Lin Muyu wasn't worried at all because he had the spirit pulse art. When his spiritual sense pulsed, almost any energy fluctuation within 3 miles couldn't escape his senses. This was something even a sacred realm expert couldn't compare to. Suddenly he looked towards the north and said, Be careful, there's a spirit beast there and it's very strong. Yes. Everyone was solemn. After turning around a mountain, they saw a giant elephant standing at the foot of a rocky peak. It was about 5 meters tall and had a huge body. It didn't move at all, and the surface of its skin was almost the same as the stone. It's a stone elephant. Wei Chou said in a low voice, A 4,800-year-old stone elephant, my lord, seems to be hibernating. Do we need to kill it? It shouldn't be difficult to kill it now. We're too lucky to encounter a hibernating high-rank spirit beast so easily. No. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Spirit beasts are also living creatures. When we don't need them, let's not kill too much. Let's continue forward. We need to kill rock-type spirit beasts above 5,000 years old. Yes, my lord. The group of Imperial Guards couldn't help but look at Lin Muyu with more respect. In this shattered cauldron continent, the strong were respected, and the weak had no dignity to speak of. In their opinion, the fate of the weak was to be fish on the chopping block. Lin Muyu was the strongest among this group of Imperial Guards, yet she still had kindness in her heart. They didn't dare to laugh at Lin Muyu because Lin Muyu was much stronger than them. By noon, they had traversed half of the Valley of Rubble and encountered more than a dozen spirit beasts. However, none of them were of the stone element and above 5,000 years old. Lin Muyu was not in a hurry. She sat on the horseback and cultivated the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll, not wasting any time. At this moment, his spiritual sense suddenly fluctuated. It had appeared. He suddenly raised his head and said with a smile, "The thing we're looking for is here, and it came to us by itself." What? Wei Chou and the others were shocked. "Defensive formation, hurry up!" Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. The group dismounted one after another and protected the warhorses in the center. The Imperial Guards raised their shields and formed a circle. In less than 2 minutes, the howls of wolves could be heard from afar. At least 20+ huge gray wolves charged down from the mountain ridge in the distance. From afar they looked very imposing. Wei Chou narrowed his eyes and said, "It's the rock spot wolves, at least 20 of them. My God, what kind of luck do we have? Not only are the rock spot wolves fast and agile, their fur is also very thick. They're even harder to deal with than the swift wolves. With so many rock spot wolves all of a sudden we're in danger." Lin Muyu said, "Form a circle. I'll charge out and kill them. Don't move, understand?" "Yes." He proudly raised his sword and walked to the outer perimeter of the defensive circle. With a light lift of his palm, he summoned the Wall of the Gourd, Mystic Tortoise Shell, and Wall of Dragon Scale. The wolves in the distance were getting closer and closer. Every single one of them had a pattern of gold and silver lines on their foreheads, representing their lifespan and strength. The largest wolf among them actually had 5 gold lines and 2 silver lines. It was a 5,200-year-old stone wolf. It was a pity that he was the Wolf King, and he had brought more than 10 rock spot wolves with him. If they weren't careful, they might end up being hunted. Wei Chou gripped his sword tightly and shouted, "My lord, be careful. There's a 5,200 years old Wolf King and a 3,900 years old Wolf King. The rest are all below 3,000 years old. Be careful." "Yes." Lin Muyu raised her voice and said, "I'll block them. You guys use your bows and arrows to kill them. Kill the younger rock spot wolves first. If they pounce and bite, you must defend yourself. Don't let the warhorses get attacked. Otherwise we'll be in trouble." "Yes." As they spoke, the Wolf King had already arrived. Lin Muyu rushed forward without hesitation and activated Thunderous Frenzy. Crack! The burning prairie sword directly collided with the layer of spiritual energy on the Wolf King's abdomen, causing fragments to fly everywhere. However, it was unable to harm the Wolf King. On the contrary, the Wolf King pounced with all its might and directly hit the wall of the gourd. With a ping sound, the black tortoise shell was already covered in cracks. Spirit beasts over 5,000 years old were indeed powerful. Spirit beasts under 5,000 years old were completely incomparable. Sha sha, her battle boots stepped on the snow. Lin Muyu directly used the exquisite butterfly steps. A few footprints crisscrossed on the snow as she dodged the Wolf King's next attack. Then she raised her fist. Her fist was covered with a blood-colored cyclone. She directly punched the 3,900 years old rock spot wolf. Chaos of all life. The punch directly shattered the rock spot wolf's spirit energy layer and shattered its ribs. With a loud howl, the 3,900 years old rock spot wolf was seriously injured by the first dazzle. It lay on the snow and struggled to get up, but it was already too late. Lin Muyu's intention was very simple. She wanted to use her strength to restrain the Wolf King and then quickly finish off the second 3,900 years old rock spot wolf. Clearly, she had achieved her goal. The Wolf King roared and pounced over again. At the same time, it summoned the other 3 over 2,000 years old rock spot wolves to surround and attack her, forming a 4 versus 1 attack. Lin Muyu gripped the burning prairie sword tightly. The walls of the bottle gourd covered her body to protect herself. Sharp arrows whizzed past her, killing or injuring the rock spot wolves one after another. Of course, there were even more rock spot wolves that pounced on the shield wall and opened their mouths to bite the shoulder armor of the royal guards. The sound of howling and tearing filled the air. Swoosh! The long sword swept horizontally and directly chopped off the front leg of a 2,100-year-old rock spot wolf. However, in this fleeting moment, the mystic tortoise shell had already been torn apart. What followed next was the dragon scale wall. The Wolf King crazily bit down with its sharp claws and ferocious mouth. In the blink of an eye, even the dragon scale wall was torn apart. At this moment Lin Muyu had also finished off the other 3 rock spot wolves. He suddenly turned around and smelled a fishy smell. The Wolf King's claws had landed on his chest, and a mighty force pushed him to the snow. Oh no! He was secretly shocked and hurriedly raised his left arm. The effects of the stone skin potion were still in effect, and he could only hope that he could withstand the attack. Pooh! Fresh blood splattered. He had overestimated the effects of the potion, and his left wrist was directly penetrated by the Wolf King's fangs. A heart-wrenching pain spread through his body. He was already injured. An indescribable anger surged in his heart. This beast actually dared to be so impudent? A vigorous force instantly surged into his right arm. In the next moment, his fist was surrounded by the life constellation. The mighty fist directly landed on the Wolf King's neck. 3 luminaries calamity. Kacha! The Wolf King howled in pain as it retreated. Its neck had been struck by the 3rd luminaries, and it seemed to have fractured its bones. However, the Wolf King's vitality was too tenacious. It staggered back to its feet and looked like it was going to continue pouncing. Lin Muyu did not give in at all. She raised her left fist that was dripping with blood and threw another mighty punch. 1 luminary's calamity. Bang! After a heavy blow, the Wolf King became obedient this time. It howled in pain and retreated. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Lin Muyu lightly raised her palm, and numerous gourd vines rose from the snow, binding the Wolf King tightly. Flames condensed in her palm, and she used the fire sword to activate the dragon flame spiral break. Pooh! Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Almost half of the Wolf King's body was blasted into pieces. No matter how strong its vitality was, it could no longer struggle. With a miserable howl, its soul passed away. Looking behind him, the remaining rock spot wolves had almost all been killed by Wei Chou and the other royal guards. There were at least 40 rock spot wolf corpses lying outside the defensive perimeter. It was more than what he had imagined. It was practically a wolf family. My lady, are you injured? Wei Chou hurriedly said. Lin Muyu had already taken out some healing medicine and poured it onto the wound on her wrist. She tore off a piece of white cloth from the end of her battle robe and wrapped it up. She slowly sat down on a snow-covered rock and said while breathing heavily, I'm fine. How are everyone's injuries? Wei Chou said, 1 seriously injured and 7 lightly injured. These rock spot wolves are too hateful, they're everywhere. Lin Muyu walked over to take a look and found that a royal guard's shoulder was almost torn apart by the rock spot wolves. His armor was completely shattered. She took out 2 bottles of healing medicine and poured it on him. Then she personally helped him bandage his wound. The royal guard was so touched that he was about to burst into tears. My lady, I. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, stop being a busybody. If it was me, you would have done the same to me. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. The originally tense feeling of life and death had been washed away by this young general's words. Not long after, Wei Chou came over with a thick spirit stone and said with a smile, My lady, this is a 5,200-year-old rock spot wolf spirit stone. We have already completed more than half of the mission. We only need to find a 5,000-year-old golden-scaled beast and kill a fat boar to complete this winter's mission. There are still 20 days until the winter sacrifice ceremony, so there should be more than enough time. No, we don't actually have much time. Lin Muyu took the spirit stone and stuffed it into the bag on the horse's back. She said, if we kill a wild boar, it won't be easy to transport that 1,000-kilogram big fellow back. We can't decompose the carcass either, so we should hurry. Immediately set up camp and rest here for a while. After eating lunch, we will continue to the north to find the golden-scaled beast. Yes, my lady. Wei Chou's face was full of joy. He had probably never carried out a mission so smoothly before, nor had he been so passionate. Killing a bloodthirsty tiger in the deadwood forest, fighting a pack of wolves in the stony valley, these deeds were enough for the taverns of the imperial capital to brag for a lifetime. In the afternoon, after eating and drinking to her heart's content, Lin Muyu turned over and mounted the horse. She pulled up the white temple cloak behind her head to cover her short hair, brought her injured left arm closer to her chest for warmth, and held the reins with her right hand. The next spirit stone was for the beautiful princess. Chapter 128. Snow was flying everywhere and the wind was like a knife scraping on the skin. The temperature in the north of the dragon forest was completely different from that in the south. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu and the others had been in the dragon forest for half a month, but they still hadn't found the golden-scaled beast. Master. Wei Chou took a breath and warmed his palms. He looked up at the falling snow and said, "At this rate, the snow will seal the mountain in a week at most. If we can't find the golden-scaled beast, I'm afraid we can only spend the winter in the dragon forest." Yes. Lin Muyu continued to ride forward and didn't respond to Wei Chou's words. Instead, she turned around and asked, "Is there enough fodder for the horses?" An imperial guard said respectfully, "There's enough for 3 days." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Continue the march." It was almost dusk and the snow still didn't stop. The team slowly entered a gourd-shaped valley. Wei Chou couldn't help but smile. "Master, your martial soul is the green gourd. This is the gourd valley on the map. Maybe it's our blessed land." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. The spiritual pulse technique continued to extend to its maximum range. Not long after entering the valley, there was indeed a trace of energy pulsation, and this time the range of the fluctuation was very strong. Lin Muyu immediately raised her palm and said, "Be careful, there's a spirit beast approaching quickly. It's very strong. Be on guard." Everyone turned over and dismounted, holding their swords and sabers. Many people pulled their longbows with trembling hands. Maybe it was because the weather was too cold, but the bow made a squeaking sound when it was pulled taut, as if it would break at any time. "It's coming." Wei Chou's face turned cold. It was when night fell. There was a beast roar from the other side of the valley, followed by a golden light soaring into the sky. This made Wei Chou couldn't help but show a happy expression. "Master, it's the golden-scaled beast." The golden-scaled beast was an exotic beast that could devour and release light energy. It was also one of the rare light-type spirit beasts. Lin Muyu remained seated on her warhorse with her sword in hand. She did not move at all. As far as her eyes could see, a ferocious beast covered in golden scales trod through the snow. Its head was like that of a ferocious tiger, but its body was like that of a cheetah. It let out a low growl as its blood-red eyes stared fixedly at Lin Muyu and the others. 4 golden and 8 silver lines flashed on its head. "Damn it." Wei Chou couldn't help but curse. "It's actually a 4,800-year-old golden-scaled beast. My lord, are we going to kill it?" "I'm afraid we have no choice but to kill them." Lin Muyu dismounted and said, "This golden-scaled beast is here to hunt. Even if we don't kill it, it will attack us. Don't be polite, shoot." "Yes." A group of Imperial Guards shot arrows one after another. The arrows of the Imperial Guards could be said to be fast, accurate, and ruthless. Nearly half of the arrows hit the body of the golden-scaled beast. However, the golden light flickered endlessly. The skin of the golden-scaled beast seemed to have some kind of shield, blocking all the arrows. "Can't shoot through, what should we do?" Wei Chou was stunned. "Continue to shoot." Lin Muyu said lightly, "The light energy condensed shield needs to consume energy. Continue to shoot, arrows will consume its energy. Don't stop until it takes the initiative to pounce." "Yes." The arrows continued. Lin Muyu also touched her waist, and the magic noise blade was already in her hand. She quickly threw it out, and the magic noise blade returned to attack the golden-scaled beast. Not only that, Lin Muyu opened her palm and lightning flashed. She controlled the Liaoyuan sword with the thunder sword to attack. Bang! When the magic noise blade was agitated, the golden-scaled beast finally roared and suddenly rushed over. It raised its claws, which condensed into a golden light. The light spiritual power was endless, and with a whoosh, a light energy claw attack was launched. Lin Muyu hurriedly took a few steps in front of Wei Chou and others. She opened her palm, and the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were quickly blessed. The wall of the gourd was also opened to the maximum, pushing the snow on the ground forward. With a loud noise, it actually resisted the attack of the golden-scaled beast. However, from the strength of the attack, the golden-scaled beast did consume most of its strength in defense. Brr. The golden-scaled beast opened its bloody mouth and pounced on the culprit. Its mouth spewed out a scorching and stinky breath. Its throat began to swell, and rays of golden light penetrated through its fur. The light energy in its mouth became more and more intense, as if it was about to spit out a mouthful of light explosive energy. Lin Muyu naturally wouldn't let it succeed. In a flash, she arrived below the golden-scaled beast. She crossed her right arm and blood-colored energy lingered. Chaos of all lives. A heavy punch landed on the lower jaw of the golden-scaled beast, abruptly killing its light attack. At the same time he spun his body and grabbed the burning prairie sword. The real dragon primary fire was concentrated and lingered around the long sword. With the fastest speed, the sword pierced through the throat of the golden-scaled beast with a puff sound. The golden-scaled beast fell down softly amidst the screams. Weicho was stunned. Obviously, he didn't think that Lin Muyu would be able to deal with a 4,800-year-old golden-scaled beast so quickly. The rest of the Imperial Guards also looked at the new centurion, with unspeakable awe and joy in their eyes. Okay, take out the spirit stones. Lin Muyu said lightly. Yes. Weicho took out a dagger, walked forward and lifted the head of the golden-scaled beast, dug out the spirit stones and said with a smile, Madam, the fur of the golden-scaled beast is a good material. How about, we spend a little time and peel off the fur of this golden-scaled beast? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Hurry up, the second golden-scaled beast will be here soon. What? Weicho was shocked. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, Because the living habit of the golden-scaled beast is to live with a male and a female. The one in front of us is a female beast. If it forages for too long and doesn't return, the male beast will naturally follow its scent and find it. The male beast must be very strong, so you have to be quick. Don't let the male beast see you peel off the skin of the female beast. That would be too inhumane. Weicho couldn't help but laugh. Yes, madam. I will speed up. So Weicho peeled off the skin, and another Imperial Guard sat on the side and began to refine the beast spirit of the 4,800-year-old golden-scaled beast. Although he practiced the law of fire, and the golden-scaled beast practiced the law of light, he was not picky about food. The spirit of a beast with a long lifespan was very rare, and it was even more difficult to find one that matched the attribute. So even such a beast spirit made him ecstatic. Lin Muyu then ordered to set up camp. There was snow everywhere in the Gourd Valley, so they could only sweep away the snow and set up tents on the slightly dry grass. The soldiers of the Spirit Fire Department found some dead wood and set up 7 or 8 bonfires. They took out the bear meat from the horses and began to boil the meat soup. Not long after, the smell of meat overflowed. Gugu, Lin Muyu's stomach growled and his internal organs were about to rebel, but he knew that there might be no time to eat. In fact, this was indeed the case. Not long after, the pulse of the spirit pulse technique in the distance became more and more intense, and a force that was almost about to crush him was quickly approaching. He quickly pulled out the blade and whispered, It's coming, come with me. Everyone was solemn. They dropped the meat soup, blankets and other things, picked up their spears, swords and other things and followed Lin Muyu to the side of the hillside. Sha sha. Stepping on the snow and scuttling up the hillside, Lin Muyu brought everyone to the hillside, only revealing their eyes to observe the situation in the distance. After a few minutes, a low roar echoed in the cold wind, and a golden light shot through the curtain of snow. An even larger golden-scaled beast appeared on the snowy ground. There were a total of 6 golden vein patterns and 2 silver vein patterns on its head. It was a 6,200-year-old spirit beast. Perhaps because of its huge size, its palms sank deep into the snow. Its eyes were a little dim, and it looked at the corpse of the mother beast in the distance, and let out a mournful howl. Lin Muyu frowned and didn't say anything. At this moment he actually felt that he was committing a crime. Wild beasts also had spirituality, and he killed the mother beast just like that. Was it a little cruel? Weicho didn't have such a kind heart. He squinted his eyes and said, "Milord, when the sacrifice for the mother beast is halfway through, we kill it?" No. Lin Muyu raised her hand to stop him and said, "Let me go first, don't be impulsive. This is a 6,200-year-old golden-scaled beast, and its strength is far greater than the ones we met before. Don't act rashly. This golden-scaled beast's light energy can kill you in an instant. I don't want anyone to die on their first mission after becoming an Eagle Guard." Weicho nodded, "Then be careful, milord. And don't worry." At this moment, the mother beast let out another mournful howl. After sniffing the corpse of the mother beast, it immediately began to growl in a low voice. Its steel needle-like beard trembled up and down, but it cast its gaze on the warhorse at the edge of the tent not far away. In the next moment, it had already pounced over with a low growl, clearly intending to kill the warhorse to vent its anger. Whoosh! The burning prairie sword, wrapped in purple lightning, pierced through the curtain of snow and went straight to the neck of the golden-scaled beast. With a bang, the golden light scattered, and only a part of the golden-scaled beast's light energy shield was blasted off. Lin Muyu jumped up directly from the hillside, grabbed the rebounded burning prairie sword with both hands in the air, and a strong demonic power poured into the long sword. She slashed the sword down in the air. This attack combined the 7 luminaries' Shen energy with the sword technique. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. The blade fell directly on the forehead of the golden-scaled beast, but a strong recoil quickly spread out, and he was shaken away with the sword. It can actually condense battle armor. "Milord, be careful," Wei Chou shouted anxiously on the hillside. Lin Muyu slid far away on the snow and looked at it from a distance. Sure enough, the skin of this golden-scaled beast was wrapped in a faint white luster, like armor protecting it. Was this the battle armor that Wei Chou mentioned? Transforming chi into battle armor, this was the ability of the second heaven of the heaven realm. How could this golden-scaled beast also condense battle armor? Chapter 129. The age of the spirit beast was not the final criterion of strength. It was just one of them. For example, the golden-scaled beast in front of her, although it was 6,200 years old, it seemed that its spirituality was far stronger than that of the mother beast just now. Otherwise, it would not have comprehended the battle chi armor ability. Rustle. Stepping on the snow, the golden-scaled beast's blood-colored eyes stared at Lin Muyu and slowly walked around him. This was the unique attack ability of beasts, looking for opportunities. Lin Muyu's heart was a little cold. After all, she still underestimated the ability of a 6,200 years old spirit beast. This golden-scaled beast did not seem to be something that she could resist alone. The golden-scaled beast's whole body was enshrouded in the energy of battle chi armor. It rushed forward and actually stood up. Its 2 palms broke the wind and made 3 attacks in an instant. Bang bang bang, shaking the wall of the gourd. Almost in an instant, the black tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall were smashed together. The next moment, the golden light turned into a claw and swept across. Lin Muyu leaned down to the limit, only to feel a cold wind on the top of her head, fluttering a handful of hair. Terrible, she was almost killed by this golden-scaled beast. With a slide of her feet, she flashed to the right side of the spirit beast with flexible movements. With a shake of the long sword, she quickly slashed several times, but still could not break the battle armor of the golden-scaled beast. She immediately had a very bad feeling in her heart. Not surprisingly, a cold wind passed by her side. It was the whip-tail attack of the golden-scaled beast. Bang! With a heavy blow, Lin Muyu's left shoulder armor had been shattered, and the bones of his arm also made a cracking sound as if they had been swept off. Without the protection of the gourd wall, his body could not withstand the direct attack of a 6,200 years old spirit beast even if he had tempered his bones and purified his marrow. Save the master. On the hillside, a group of Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards rushed down. Wei Chou jumped up and slammed his sword on the buttocks of the golden-scaled beast. Another group of Imperial Guards drew their bows and shot at close range. Suddenly, arrows bounced off the battle armor of the golden-scaled beast. This group of Imperial Guards also had guts. Since the arrows could not break the defense, they immediately rushed over with their spears. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a spear light burst out on the spirit beast. Roar! The golden-scaled beast was furious, and the scales all over its body seemed to stand up. The wind and snow from all directions madly rushed towards the golden-scaled beast's body. In the next moment, light bloomed, and with the golden-scaled beast as the center, a wave of light energy burst out, immediately repelling a group of royal guards and royal army. Screams rang out incessantly and many people had been injured. Lin Muyu endured the pain and was forced to retreat several steps. She hastily raised her right arm which was still able to be used. Flames lingered around it as she used fire to control the sword. The sword flew up and the true dragon essence fire frantically poured into the blade. At the same time, she summoned her martial spirit and shouted, "Poison liquid!" However, the poisonous liquid was not spat on the spirit beast, but on the blade of the sword. "Wei Chou, buy me a second." Lin Muyu shouted as she charged forward on her burning prairie sword. Wei Chou nodded and got up from the ground. He shook his long sword and turned it into a cold light that blasted towards the golden-scaled beast. However, the golden-scaled beast did not pay attention to him at all. It raised its claws and waved it lightly. Dang! Wei Chou's steel sword was immediately broken, and his chest was even more stuffy. He was hit by the golden-scaled beast's claws and fell heavily into the snow, vomiting blood. Fortunately, he had the flame aura to protect his body, otherwise he would have died. Just as the golden-scaled beast was concentrating on attacking Wei Chou, a burning flame came from behind. It was Lin Muyu's dragon flame spiral break. Puff. The powerful whirlpool penetrated the golden-scaled beast's scales, and the torn wound rolled out hot blood. At the same time, it also brought the poisonous liquid of the gourd flower into the golden-scaled beast's body. That piece of muscle quickly twitched and shrank. Roar! The originally majestic roar turned into a wail. The golden-scaled beast's palms carried golden energy and turned around to rush towards Lin Muyu. It jumped, and its claws fell from the sky, pouncing down with the pressure of Mount Tai. Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. Because of the injury, she was in a trance and could no longer dodge the falling star step. She made up her mind, clenched her teeth, and waved her right arm, summoning the power deep in her body, the fourth element. In an instant, her body felt like it was about to be torn apart. Her mind quickly became scorching hot, as if her whole body was about to be melted by this power. The powerful fourth element was not something his soul could withstand at the moment. Forcefully raising the power would obviously backfire on his body, but he did not care so much. If he did not use the power of the fourth element, he was afraid that his 51-man team would die in the dragon-seeking forest. Around his right fist that was flowing with blood, there were rays of light and shadows of gods and ghosts. They quickly turned into stars and the power surged out. Even if it was forcefully raised, it was still very amazing. For element demons and gods cry. Bang! A punch hit the golden-scaled beast's jaw, and the fist force went straight to its brain. At the same time, the golden-scaled beast's sharp claws also fell on Lin Muyu's chest, and with a crack, the breastplate was split into two, revealing the body that was soaked in blood below. Even copper skin and iron bones could not withstand such an attack. A tearing pain came from his chest, and his body was also sent flying with the impact. The golden-scaled beast fell heavily to the ground, howling angrily. However, under the attack of the four luminaries' demon and god's cry, it was already a deathbed struggle. Hurry up and save the Lord. The injured Wei Cho let out a roar. Suddenly, 9 Imperial guards pulled out their swords and rushed over, surrounding the golden-scaled beast. Pu-piu-piu, the blades of their swords pierced into the body of the golden-scaled beast. Fresh blood gushed out, and the spiritual beast once again let out an anguished wail, completing the last part of its life. Lin Muyu looked up and saw that the golden-scaled beast had died. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, she didn't have to die here. She touched the bottles and jars in the bag on her waist. A few bottles of healing medicine had been shattered. Fortunately, there were still 2 bottles, which was enough. There was also a bottle of muscle replenishing powder, which was used together. This time, even the bones were broken, so it was impossible not to use the muscle replenishing powder. Fortunately, there were still more than a dozen bottles of muscle replenishing powder, which was enough. Fortunately, there was also the muscle replenishing powder, otherwise the speed of recovery would be horribly slow. Moreover, the heavy snow was about to seal the mountain, and the weather was freezing. Healing the wounds was also a problem. Without the muscle replenishing powder, it was easy for pus to form or malignant frostbite. Wei Cho handed over a warm golden-scaled beast spirit stone, but his eyes fell on Lin Muyu's terrible wounds. He couldn't help but say with a trembling voice, "My lord, you are the commander of the Imperial Guards. There is no need to use your flesh and blood to fight this 6,200 years old spirit beast. Moreover, Her Highness Yin and Princess Xi are so important people, you really shouldn't do this." Lin Muyu glanced at him and smiled. "If I didn't go, many people were destined to be killed by the golden-scaled beast." "So what?" Wei Cho said, "From the moment we joined the Imperial Guards, we have already made up our minds to be loyal to the Empire. If we can use our lives in exchange for a golden-scaled beast spirit stone to improve Her Highness Yin's cultivation, then it is worth it. But my lord, you have suffered such a serious injury." "Wei Cho," Lin Muyu said seriously, "do you think my injury is more important or the lives of the Imperial Guards?" That is a life. "I would rather suffer a serious injury than let one of the Imperial Guards die," Lin Muyu said with a sigh. Wei Chao's eyes were deep and he stood silently at the side. The white robe behind Lin Muyu had been dyed half red, but he didn't make a sound from beginning to end. After treating all the wounds, he changed into a new temple battle robe and put it on. He was full of energy as if he had never been injured. Of course, only he knew how painful it was. It seemed that he had been like this since he was young. Lin Muyu deeply understood that as a man, if he didn't bear the pain, who else could he rely on? Many of the Imperial Guards were injured, so they went to skin the golden-scaled beasts. The skin of the golden-scaled beasts could be used to make leather armor or robes, and the scales in the middle of the body could be crushed and used to make medicine. It was said that it was very effective in treating colds. As for the exact effect, no one knew. In any case, Lin Muyu knew nothing. He was well versed in alchemy, and in the medical field of the human body, his attainments were probably far below Chu Yao's. Thinking of this, he covered his wound and couldn't help but miss his sister, Chu Yao. As he thought about it, the broken bone in his left arm felt an indescribable pain. He hurriedly circulated his Do Qi throughout his body, and used the power of the forging dragon bone scroll to speed up the healing of the broken bone. This kind of pain was indescribable, and in the blink of an eye, his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Wei Chou could only clench his fists, but there was nothing he could do. The dinner could be considered to be sumptuous. There was grouper wolf soup, the heart of the golden-scaled beast, and some wild vegetables. It was very refreshing to eat. Because most of the soldiers were injured, they all rested on the spot and would leave the next day. This night, Lin Muyu spent it in pain and suffering. Only until the wee hours of the morning did he feel a slight itch from the broken bone in his arm. Under the magical effect of the bone muscle replenishing powder, the bone had already begun to regenerate and fuse. However, his left arm still couldn't use much strength and was just hanging at the side. The splint was made from the cold spear shaft, and was so simple that it was somewhat ridiculous. Fortunately, his blood had already been tempered into the true dragon's blood. His vitality was extremely tenacious, and his recovery ability was also amazing. This broken bone shouldn't take too long to regenerate. At most, he would be able to move as usual in 3 to 5 days. After daybreak, the wind and snow still hadn't stopped. "Let's go." Lin Muyu turned over and got on the horse. Since he couldn't move his left hand, he could only use his right arm to hold the reins and slowly lead everyone out of the gourd valley. At the same time, he spread out his spirit sense to check if there was any movement in the surroundings. He cleverly circled around a snow bear that was at least 7,000 years old. There were many kinds of spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest, and there were many powerful spirit beasts that were more than 10,000 years old. Lin Muyu also knew that he must not meet any of them, or else his group might not even have the chance to escape. When it was near noon, suddenly an eagle guard in charge of scouting galloped in front of them and said, "Sir, we found a big pile of feces in front, it's steaming hot." "Is it human feces?" Wei Chou asked. The eagle guard in charge of scouting smiled. "Sir Wei Chou, that's a good question. But have you ever seen a human that can pull down 20 kilograms of feces in one breath?" Wei Chou was stunned and smiled. "Let's go take a look." Chapter 130. A pile of steaming hot feces fell onto the snowy ground. It had a diameter of 1 meter and was still emitting steam. It quickly melted the snow around it and seemed to be full of energy. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the other royal guards observed it for a long time. Wei Chou muttered, "The color and smell of the feces should be that of a wild boar. A wild boar that can poop out such a big pile can't be small. Moreover, it probably went out to look for food and didn't walk too fast. We just need to follow the smell and footprints to find it." As he spoke, Wei Chou sniffed his nose. He really didn't expect this brat to have this kind of skill. Lin Muyu laughed and said, "All right, Wei Chou, lead the way, let's go quickly." "Yes." The group followed Wei Chou and quickly entered the sea of snow to search. They didn't even walk half a mile before they heard a hoo-hoo sound in front of them. They saw a huge creature digging its way through the snow and then devouring the wild grass buried under the snow. It looked very funny with its butt sticking out, but its body was definitely huge and looked like a small mountain. "Wow!" Wei Chou beamed with joy and said, "Let's not talk about 1,000 jin for this wild boar. Looking at its size, it should be at least 5,000 jin, right? It's almost a spirit." It was indeed a spirit. There were 2 golden lines on the head of this wild boar. It was a 2,000-year-old wild boar. A boar that could live for so long must have had enough to eat for many meals. In an instant, Lin Muyu thought of the wild boar that her father took her to eat when she was young. It was firm and tasty, far better than reared pork. She suddenly felt that this 2,000-year-old wild boar in front of her was actually very cute. Wei Chou raised his hand and smiled as he ordered, "Surround it and block the path of this wild boar. Everyone be careful, don't use arrows or weapons to attack because this boar will be used for the winter sacrifice ceremony. The carcass cannot be damaged and must be knocked unconscious. Do you understand?" A group of royal guards whistled as they rode their horses forward. Wei Chou raised his long sword and rushed forward. He was the one in charge of the hunting mission this time. Lin Muyu had already lost an arm, so he couldn't work anymore. However, Lin Muyu still urged her horse forward slowly. After all, the wild boar was a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. Wei Chou would definitely be able to defeat it, but it was hard to say if he could capture it without any losses. Yo. The group of royal guards began to clamor. Immediately, the wild boar raised its head and looked at everyone with its cute face. It felt that they had come with ill intentions. These humans all looked like hungry ghosts that had entered a pork shop. Hoo! The wild boar began to run for its life, but it was quickly pushed back by Wei Chou's true qi. It hurriedly turned around and ran for its life again. Lin Muyu couldn't stand it anymore. She raised her hand and a gourd vine suddenly broke out of the snow and tied up the wild boar tightly. She waved her right fist from afar and demon sound fist flew through the air. After a peng sound, the 2,000-year-old wild boar fell to the ground with a miserable howl. In just an instant, its heart had already been shattered by Lin Muyu's demon sound fist. There was no way it could struggle. It died just like that? Wei Chou was stunned. Oh right, how could it not die after being hit by demon sound fist? Lin Muyu was a little proud, but she tried not to show it. Demon sound fist? Wei Chou was shocked. That's the secret technique of white robe Chu Chu? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. When I was cultivating in Silver Fir City, I learned from Chu for a short period of time. He was the one who personally taught me the demon sound fist. Wei Chou immediately looked at Lin Muyu with not only respect, but also admiration. After all, Chu Chu was one of the few experts on the continent. Although no one knew how many Sacred Realm experts there were in the Shattered Cauldron realm, there were only two who served the Empire. One was Chu Chu, the other was Lei Hong. Of course there was also Zhen Yifan. It was just that these people didn't know that a divine overlord had such a cultivation. Lin Muyu had once studied under Chu Chu. Just this fact alone was enough to make these royal guards respect him. Let me try. Wei Chou walked forward and inserted both of his hands into the snow. Holding the boar's corpse, true qi flowed throughout his body as he growled, "Get up!" Rustle? The snow moved, but the wild boar's carcass didn't move at all. Another imperial guard laughed heartily. Wei Chou, this wild boar is at least 4,000 to 5,000 caddies in weight. How can you lift it by yourself? Someone drag the cart over. One of you will be in charge of shoveling the snow and clearing the path. We're going back to Lanyan City. Yes. Seeing the wild boar being moved onto the cart, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She brushed the snow off her shoulders and felt that this world of ice and snow was a bit more leisurely. At least she didn't have to worry about scheming against each other here, unlike staying in Lanyan City. Whether it was Zheng Yifan, Xiang Yu, Zhen Fang, Luo Xing, or the others, everyone was scheming against her and couldn't wait to kill her. Compared to Lanyan City, Xiaoyao was much more at ease in the dragon-seeking forest. However, there were Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Chu Huaying, and Zhang Wei in Lanyan City, but there were no close friends in the dragon-seeking forest. This was probably the reason why life was not as good as 8 or 9 out of 10. Although the wheels of the cart were big, the mountainous terrain was too rugged. There were many places where it couldn't be dragged over, so they could only be carried by manpower. A wild boar that weighed 5,000 caddies was not easy to carry. 5 royal guards and 15 royal guards, a total of 20 people, barely managed to lift it. Along the way they broke countless crossbars. The speed of the return journey wasn't fast. A 4-day journey on horseback took nearly half a month. Fortunately, they were still able to make it in time for the winter sacrifice ceremony. On the 6th day after being injured, Lin Muyu's arm was back to normal. He used the spirit pulse technique to look inside his body and found that the bones had completely healed and were no different from before. As a result, he was itching to carry the wild boar with the royal guards. Fortunately, the snow hadn't stopped yet, so the wild boar's carcass wouldn't stink. However, under Wei Chou's suggestion, they still emptied the wild boar's innards. On the way back to Lanyan City, it would probably be air-dried into a giant piece of cured meat. When they were about 200 miles away from the capital, the snow finally stopped. The sky cleared up, and the sun shone on a group of tired people. Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, escorting the cart behind him. "Sir, we will reach Lanyan City in a day's time." Wei Chou said joyfully, "It should be the first time in the history of the Eagle Nest camp that we have completed all the patrolling missions in one go. I wonder how happy the commander will be." Lin Muyu smiled. "It doesn't matter how happy the commander will be. We don't want to be meritorious, but we want to make no mistakes." "Yes, sir is right." Wei Chou grinned and said, "There must be a lot of people in the Eagle Nest camp who are laughing at us. They probably won't think that we can complete all the missions in a month." Yes, that's right. At this moment, suddenly there was a jie sound in the sky, followed by a white bird flapping its wings and landing directly on Lin Muyu's shoulder. He knew this bird. It was a messenger bird raised by Chu Yao. Its name was Little White. Because there were a few strange spots on its neck, Lin Muyu recognized it. She lifted one of the legs of the messenger bird and took out a piece of paper from the tube. There was a line of beautiful handwriting on it. How did the mission go? When will you be back? It was signed by Chu Yao, and her handwriting was very beautiful. Wei Chou craned his neck to take a look and said with a smile, "It seems that there is a wonderful person in Lanyan City who is worried about you, sir." Lin Muyu glanced at him. "If you don't want to get beaten up, don't talk so much." Wei Chou smiled and walked away. Lin Muyu wrote on the back of the paper with a burnt branch, "I will be back soon. I will see you in Lanyan City. Lin Muyu." The messenger bird flapped its wings and flew away. This messenger bird had the blood of both Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. It was like the bond between the two of them, and Lin Muyu treasured it very much. A day later they arrived at Lanyan City when it was almost dusk. However, they couldn't enter the city and had to go to the Eagle Nest Barracks first. On the mountain road, a few Imperial guards were lighting a brazier and adding fuel to it. When Lin Muyu and the others appeared on the mountain road, a winged cavalry warrior immediately galloped up the mountain and shouted, "Sir Lin Muyu's troops have returned to the barracks to submit their orders." As soon as he shouted, a lot of people came to watch the troops that had been out for nearly a month. Lin Muyu's bag was filled with a lot of spirit stones, so they naturally couldn't see it. However, the huge wild boar on the trailer at the back shocked everyone. Even the experienced Imperial guards had never seen such a huge wild boar. A group of people pointed at it with joy on their faces. After all, if Lin Muyu and the others completed their mission, they wouldn't have to run around and be tired anymore. When they entered the barracks, the commander of the Eagle Nest Barracks, Meng Fong, came out to welcome them. He smiled and cupped his fists. "Sir Lin Muyu, you've worked hard on this trip." Lin Muyu said respectfully, "Fortunately, we didn't fail you. We have brought the things back. I don't know how heavy the wild boar behind us is, but it must be more than 500 kilograms. Meng Fong's eyes were like torches. He laughed and said, "This wild boar will be at least 2,000 kilograms after its internal organs are removed. Haha, even His Majesty will be happy to see such a huge wild boar as an offering. It's just that, have you obtained the required spirit stones?" Everyone understood that it was easy to kill a wild boar, but it wasn't so easy to hunt a spirit beast that was more than 5,000 years old. Even Meng Fong might not be able to complete the task, let alone a team consisting of Lin Muyu and the others. Just as Lin Muyu was about to take out the spirit stones to hand over the order, someone suddenly rode up the mountain. He held a dark blue flag with a purple flower emblem in his hand and said, "Lin Muyu of the Eagle Nest Barracks, receive the order." Lin Muyu was stunned. She turned around and said respectfully, "I'm here." The messenger smiled and said, "Her Highness heard that Sir Lin has returned to Lanyan City, so she specially arranged a banquet at the Phoenix Perching Hall and invited Sir Lin to attend the banquet immediately. In addition, she asked me to tell you that Princess She is also there." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She didn't expect Qin Yin's message to be so fast. She knew when she arrived at Lanyan City. "Then wait until I hand over the order first, sir?" The messenger smiled and said, "Her Highness said that she invited you to Zetian Hall without stopping. As for handing over the order, you can wait for a while, right?" Meng Fong hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Of course, Her Highness's matter is the most important. Sir Lin Muyu, you can go with him first." "Yes, sir." Lin Muyu cupped her hands in a humble manner. She pulled the reins and rushed down the mountain with the messenger. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.